What did you say? After listening to the report from the chief of the Grand Shaman Guards, the head of the Shaman Society was momentarily stunned. His expression baffled as he said, "Your people seized the prince?" Not seized, they were invited. Although the initial approach might have been a bit rough, once they recognized the prince's identity, they were very courteous afterwards. After awkwardly explaining a couple of sentences and seeing the muscles on the Shaman Society head's face visibly tense, his thick eyebrows furrowing noticeably, the guard captain who came to report quickly added, "Sir, this is actually just a misunderstanding. At that time, my people were under Princess Catherine's orders, searching various locations for the base of the underground society plotting to assassinate the Shaman King. But that prince and his maid happened to be in the target location and couldn't explain why they were there, and that place also yielded a list of the Yarnball Society members. So my people conveniently took them back." Your people conveniently brought them back, and I almost got onto the road to destruction. After hearing the guard captain's explanation, the head of the Shaman Society still looked frighteningly grim. Seizing the other side's emissary could be a minor or major issue. If no one pursues it, naturally it could be laughed off, but if someone wants to make a big deal out of it, it could definitely lead to a serious diplomatic incident, maybe even a war. It's fortunate that Joshua Prince's family has some marital ties with the Shaman Society, and that the two countries are allies, making the likelihood of an accident small. Otherwise, if it were an official from an enemy kingdom, not only would this foolish guard captain be done, but I could also get ousted. Unable to suppress his anger, the head of the Shaman Society glared at the guard captain before grimly questioning, "Where are they? Where have you taken them? Don't tell me you've locked them up." No. Rapidly shaking his head, the reporting guard captain quickly answered, "Before reaching the prison, my people confirmed the prince's identity and took them to the reception room to rest. Apart from not letting them leave, there were no offensive actions. You still locked them up." Hearing this, the head of the Shaman Society suddenly felt a headache and instinctively wanted to scold someone. However, when he thought of Princess Catherine, who directly bypassed the joint council of the 17 societies to issue a death order using her special privileges, the curse words that were about to leave his mouth were swallowed back down. This situation was different from before. The Yarnball Society was suspected of the Shaman King assassination attempt and reportedly nearly succeeded, which is why Princess Catherine was furious, circumventing the joint council and issuing a death order, demanding that everyone is captured at all costs. Even though his subordinates weren't the brightest, they weren't completely clueless. The fact that they dared to bring back the prince likely means they found some crucial evidence. So, are you sure the list you found is authentic? Sure. Absolutely sure. Upon seeing that the head of the Shaman Society did not immediately start scolding, and even seemed to visibly relax, the Grand Shaman Guards captain quietly sighed in relief, knowing he was in the clear, and eagerly continued. "Although it's definitely not a complete list, I've had people cross-reference the photos we seized with known members of the Yarnball Society and found a high degree of overlap. As for the others, they've gone off to capture them. With this new list and the information from those already captured, I estimate that within 1 week, we'll have the entire Yarnball Society rounded up." 1 week. Huh. After listening to his subordinate, the head of the Shaman Society was silent for a moment, then raised 3 fingers, stating adamantly, 3 days. I can cover for you for 3 days. As long as you can capture all the key members of the Yarnball Society in 3 days, I'll take the heat for you. With evidence in hand, you can arrest everyone except for the heads of the 17 societies. Pausing slightly, he then lowered his voice and said, "Including the visiting prince, if he's indeed connected with the Yarnball Society, you can conduct some relatively gentle interrogations without leaving any injuries." Ah! Princess Catherine means that if it's just the Yarnball Society, they shouldn't be able to plot the Shaman King's assassination. There could be other masterminds behind it. Seeing the captain's eyes widen in shock, the head of the Shaman Society squinted and said, "Although there's currently no concrete evidence, judging by that Lionheart Prince's style, he's very likely the person behind the Yarnball Society, and the plan to assassinate the great Shaman King might have been orchestrated by him. That Lionheart Prince. could be the mastermind behind the Great Shaman King assassination attempt? This can't be, right? No matter how he thought about it, the assumption seemed too far-fetched, and the guard captain couldn't help but half-doubtfully say, "He seems so young and doesn't appear to be very shrewd. He doesn't strike as someone capable of orchestrating such things. Besides, our two sides are allies. He wouldn't have a motive to assassinate the Great Shaman King. That may not be the case." Recalling what he knew, the head of the Shaman Society shook his head and said, "Even though you've become head of the Great Shaman Guards, you're still not a member of the Joint Council, so there's a lot of information you're not privy to. There's something very off with that Lionheart Prince. According to the information I've heard, though Queen Veronica is competent, her brother was the more recognized successor, and he was consistently at a disadvantage in the power struggle for the throne. However, right after being chosen as the successor duke, the Lionheart Prince publicly proposed to Princess Veronica on the day he assumed his title, providing significant support to her, allowing her to regain the upper hand, and that was merely the beginning." Stopping here briefly, the head of the Shaman Society then cautiously continued. After Queen Veronica accepted the proposal, within about a month, there was a large-scale unrest in the royal capital. Many rebels stormed the palace, nearly drowning the queen in the lake and leaving the old king bedridden until he hastily abdicated. Then it's said that the hot-tempered Prince Joshua not only refrained from resisting but became incredibly docile, even reporting the former queen, who tried to collude with ministers, cooperating with the Lionheart Prince on diplomatic missions. After arriving here, he became even more obedient, not making a sound even when the Lionheart Prince called him son. He behaved so meekly that he didn't resemble his previous arrogant and defiant self at all. Do you reckon his change is because of whom? Is it that Lionheart Prince? From the expression of the Shaman Society's leader, the chief of the Grand Witch Court's guard deduced the answer and couldn't help but gasp. Then nervously said, "You mean to say, the rebellion attacking the palace was actually orchestrated by that Lionheart Prince? It had to be him. But I heard that before the rebellion attacked the palace, they also tried to assassinate Queen Veronica, and almost succeeded, didn't they? Almost succeeding is still not succeeding. Besides, when Her Majesty Veronica was first assassinated, she was still a princess, but now she's been assassinated into becoming Queen Veronica. If that counts as an assassination, she might be happy to go through it a few more times." Also, those so-called rebels disappeared without a trace right after placing Queen Veronica on the throne, completely ceasing any actions. Not a single one could be found. And after Queen Veronica ascended, not a single serious arrest warrant was issued. Instead, several anonymous pardons were signed. Care to guess for whom these pardons were signed? They must have been signed for those rebels. Of course, listening to the Shaman Society's leader, the guard chief's worldview was drastically shaken, causing him to take a deep breath. Didn't even bother pretending? They're that ruthless. Ruthless? I've been watching this Lionheart Prince for a long time. Attacking the palace is actually one of his milder actions. The Shaman Society's leader couldn't help but snicker, his face darkening as he continued. Up until now, that Lionheart Prince has served as Prince Envoy 3 times. The first was to the Kralik Kingdom, and less than half a month after his arrival, the Kralik Kingdom first suffered a great fire, then a tsunami, completely obliterating it. Weren't those considered natural disasters? Have you ever seen a natural disaster where ordinary people are mostly unharmed, but the entire royal family is wiped out except for a teenage girl, and then the entire nation, people, and technology are loaded onto ships and taken away in bulk? Well, there's definitely something off about this. I'm very certain that what happened to the Kralik Kingdom was absolutely not a natural disaster, but pure man-made disaster. The Shaman Society's leader sneered coldly. To know who did something, just look at who benefited the most. So, who do you think destroyed the Kralik Kingdom? And who ended up with all of Kralik Kingdom's inheritance? Then the Northern Kingdom was even stranger. The Lionheart Prince had only landed for 3 days before an ocean storm and tectonic movement hit. causing nearly 100 earthquakes in the Ice Plains nation, obliterating centuries of accumulation. The once powerful Northern Kingdom, now reduced to a vassal, must sell its minerals at low prices in exchange for food from that supposedly innocent Duke of Lionheart, with its lifeline completely in another's hands. Also, the former well-doing King Harvey mysteriously went wrong, abdicating with no reason given to his sister who had never handled any state affairs. And Princess Melisande, reputed to have a good relationship with the Lionheart prince and even traveled far to attend his wedding. The first thing she did after inheriting the throne was sign a 20-year agreement with the Lionheart prince, promising to disband the army and open up the borders. Care to guess who's behind all this? In short, if these things aren't done by him, I'll swallow this entire cabinet immediately. Slamming a fist on the adjacent filing cabinet, the Shaman Society's leader looked grimly and said, "That Lionheart prince is a member of the Cleanup Bureau. I've complained to the Pisces branch, but the director there claimed to be injured and wouldn't see me, and they can't control the Virgin Branch people anyhow. I then tried to report to the main headquarters of the Cleanup Bureau, but they said the Aquarius director responsible for handling the complaints was out on a mission, too busy to address my issue. I suspect his actions might be tacitly approved by the Cleanup Bureau. And this Lionheart prince, who destroyed 2 kingdoms in 2 missions, has now arrived here. Although we are allied, and there's significant distance with no apparent conflicts, we can't be careless. After all, our witch kingdom is at the junction of the eastern and western continent, controlling critical straits and sea routes, so the Lionheart prince has motive. Plus, I now very much suspect he's already set his sights on Princess Catherine." Ah! The guard chief couldn't help but be greatly shocked. Could it be? Could he be plotting against the princess? Whether he's plotting is hard to say, but given his past actions and disposition, I feel he is very likely already infatuated with Princess Catherine's beauty. What? Meow! Huh? Where did the stray cat come from? Hearing the meow from outside the window, the Shaman Society's leader frowned, opened the window to chase away the black cat sunbathing on the outer wall, then returned with a dark expression. According to my investigation, besides being a lecher, this ambitious Lionheart prince likely has a perverted hobby of collecting princesses. Is there really such a matter? Are you sure? Absolutely sure. Recalling the wicked prince's lascivious demeanor, and that bizarre look of wanting to strip Princess Catherine down, the Shaman Society's leader couldn't help but pound the filing cabinet with a fist, explaining with anger. There's no need to mention Queen Veronica, who accepted his proposal. Princess Philea of the Kralik Kingdom, they say, he arranged for her to join the Cleanup Bureau, living directly in the same apartment with him. And according to the big witch Losong we sent to his wedding, Princess Melisande of the Northern Kingdom and the Lionheart prince had an unusually intimate relationship, secretly meeting backstage and even feeding each other in the banquet's corner. Gasp! Oh wow! Playing this way? In short, if it were just for obtaining benefits, he wouldn't take risks like this. So the only possibility is his special kink for the princess identity. Concluding the evil prince's kink, with a face of disdain, the Shaman Society's leader gritted his teeth. With Princess Catherine's outstanding looks and temperament, the perversion-inclined Lionheart prince must have taken a liking to her. And Princess Catherine's safety concerns whether our witch kingdom can continue. So listen up. Go investigate the Yarnball Society for me with all your might. No matter how much trouble you stir up in these 2 days, I'll back you. And if you find out the people behind the Yarnball Society are indeed that Lionheart prince, report it to me immediately. Yes. After listening to the Shaman Society's leader talk about the evil prince's past actions, the guard captain couldn't help but tense up. He responded with a worried expression and said, "As the captain of the Grand Courts Guard, I am obviously obliged to protect Princess Catherine, but if that lion-hearted prince is truly the one behind the Yarnball Society, and he finds out I'm investigating him, should he choose to resort to force and directly come to seize Prince Joshua, or even if he chooses to resort to force, it doesn't mean we have no power to resist." The Shaman Society's leader snorted coldly and said, "Although the Kralik Kingdom has advanced technology, their population is too small, and without combat power, the Northern Kingdom's legion is strong, but it's still just a state controlled by ordinary people without any extraordinary power. However, each of the 17 major societies of our mythology has secret techniques passed down for over 1,000 years, and the remaining small and medium societies also have their methods, many of which can be used on people, making various ritual curses absolutely unforeseeable. No matter how vile and ruthless his methods, in the end, Lion-Hearted Prince is just flesh and blood human. Even if one secret technique can't deal with him, wouldn't 100 or 1,000 different ones manage? This. In any case, we must not sit and wait for death. Check thoroughly for me these 2 days. Even if the Lion-Hearted Prince himself comes for the prince, I'll certainly do my best to stall him, giving you time to interrogate Prince Joshua. Knock, knock, knock. A rather urgent knock on the door interrupted the Shaman Society leader's words. After receiving permission, a young man with face paint walked in, slightly nervous as he reported. "Sir, that Lion-Hearted Prince has come, saying we've captured his maid and guard, and demanding we release them immediately." Maid and guard? After hearing the report, the two in the room exchanged a glance. Then the guard captain asked, somewhat bewildered. "He only mentioned the maid and guard? Didn't he mention a prince?" "Ah." The young man reporting twitched the corner of his mouth before truthfully conveying. "That gentleman's meaning is that there's no rush for Prince Joshua. We can keep him for a few more days if we like, but the maid and guard must be returned immediately, otherwise, there'll be no one to make his bed tonight." "So you only bother about the maid, not the prince? Then what were we worrying about just now for? Also, can someone so nonchalant really plot such conspiracies behind the scenes? I'm not suitable to appear now, you go handle it for a bit first." After a silent 10 seconds, the Shaman Society leader, looking difficult to figure out, said to the guard captain. "Additionally, since he's not in a hurry to take the prince back but instead asked for the maid and guard, then maybe that maid and guard are the real key. Stretch it out as long as you can, try to interrogate more. But my people said they didn't catch any guard, only a woman in a maid outfit. Then interrogate his maid first. Anyway, go stall a bit, try to steady the situation." "Yes." The guard captain, also looking strained, took his leave, while the self-doubting Shaman Society leader couldn't help but walk to the window and gaze out distractedly at the scenery. Could I have been wrong? Is that Lion-Hearted Prince not an ambitious schemer, just unbelievably unlucky, causing disaster wherever he goes? But that would be too coincidental. By the way, where did that cat go just now? The cat princess felt a bit panicked. Relying on her species advantage to slip past the guards, she squatted outside the window, listening to the Shaman Society leader's analysis, and having a preliminary understanding of a certain prince's peculiar fetish, she was momentarily shocked. No wonder in the stories of the narration of non-existence, the role the food god obtained wasn't cleaner from a neighboring country or curious explorer, but an ambitious and lustful evil prince. He was just being himself. Although both the trouble in the Kralik Kingdom and Northern Kingdom originate from the Slaughter King Association, and the food god seems to be merely in the right place at the right time, but the Shaman Society leader's judgment isn't entirely impossible. And there's also that suspicious princess collecting fetish, recalling being turned into a cat, and the evil prince holding and stroking her. As she leaped between rooftops, the cat princess shivered uncontrollably, almost losing her footing and falling. Though I was a cat at the time, my human form was still a princess, though his touch felt quite nice. But he might very well be a pervert. Even if he's an ally, that doesn't stop him from making a move on me. Feeling that the Shaman Society leader's speculation isn't baseless, the whole cat didn't feel well. After running from the rooftop back outside the parlor window, she looked at Leon's back on the sofa, unsure for a moment whether she should enter or not. However, Leon, who was sitting with his back to the window, seemed to vaguely sense something, suddenly turned his head, and gave her a gentle smile, his eyes kindly asking, "How's it going? Have you found Joshua's whereabouts? What intelligence have you gathered?" The intelligence has been gathered, it's just that most of it is teammate-related intelligence. And it's rather deadly kind of intelligence. Meow. Stepping through the window, the cat princess cautiously circled one side of the sofa, preparing to share what she could while keeping the princess collection fetish to herself. Alas, before she could start unnerving, the evil prince bent down, directly supporting the cat princess full of secrets, pulling the flailing cat into his arms, and even rubbed her belly twice. What's the matter? Why aren't you speaking? Forget it, let him touch if he wants. Consider it an early favor returned. Feeling the warmth from the hand on her belly, her body instinctively relaxed, feeling blissfully comfortable. The cat princess acknowledged her fate with a meow, then, skipping the princess collection fetish and evil prince's ambition, she briefly narrated her recent findings. That fake Princess Catherine personally ordered the immediate capture of all Yarn Ball Society members? Listening to the cat princess' selective retelling, Leon's eyebrow slightly raised, as if he had grasped something. The intent behind targeting the Yarn Ball Society she formed was obviously to weaken her resistance, but from the Slaughter King Association's perspective, Leon was seen as an ordinary person with no ability to manipulate abnormal objects any longer. Then, if the Slaughter King Association was certain of victory, only needing the bedtime story to slowly proceed to simultaneously capture him and the cat princess, why specifically target the Yarn Ball Society? Meow meow? After waiting for a while without any response, even the hand massaging her had unconsciously stopped, the cat princess couldn't help but look up at the pondering evil prince, inquiring in confusion. It's nothing. After scratching the cat princess's chin, Leon, coming back to his senses, spoke thoughtfully. I just find it odd that the Slaughter King Association is suddenly targeting the Yarn Ball Society. Given the current situation, they have no reason to do so, so there must be something we don't know about. Hearing this, the cat princess squinted her eyes and spoke uncertainly. If they're targeting the Yarn Ball Society, could it be they're trying to use their safety to threaten me? No need. Leon shook his head and said, You're already locked. You can only follow the plot set by the bedtime story. They don't need to do anything. When the fixed plot points arrive, you will go to them on your own initiative, without needing to threaten others. So there must be rules in this bedtime story that we don't know yet, and they're critical information. Alright, how's that hat? How much longer before it can be taken out? Almost done. Upon hearing Leon's inquiry, the cat princess lifted her right paw and, like a human rummaging through pockets, searched through the fur on the outside of her right leg and pulled out a shiny piece of amber, from which a large red sleeping cap with a white ball at the top was inching its way out. I can't destroy this hat, and I was worried they'd find me through it, so I sealed it inside the amber. It should be done in about half an hour. All right. Looking at the woolen sleeping cap, which had almost freed itself from the confines of the amber crystal and revealed its white top ball, Leon couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and reach out to gently touch the cap ball. Name: Sleeping Cap of the God of Tales. Truth, Tale. Appearance: a brightly colored tall red sleeping cap, with a densely fuzzy white ball at the top, made of a soft, skin-friendly, fluffy, and warm material, capable of putting the wearer into a good sleep. Ability: Narration of Non-Existence. Azure Sleep, Story Intervener. Cost: upon putting on the sleeping cap and intervening in the tale, one will become an ordinary person in every aspect until the tale has fully ended, unable to perform any actions contrary to the role. File: after seeing the supreme four pillar gods who had died in the past on the old soil, the God of Tales awakened the sleeping Azure Sleep, asked it to put on its own cap, and successfully borrowed the truth belonging to Azure Sleep, obtaining the qualification to put parts of the order into slumber. Evaluation: narration of non-existence refers to stories that are not real. Yet after putting on the sleeping cap, though you must abide by the order set by the God of Tales, you also gain the qualification to intervene in a narration of non-existence. Contamination value: comparable to the user's maximum contamination value. ZZZ. Through personal observation and summary, You have gained a wealth of information concerning the sleeping cap of the God of Tales. Your resistance to this abnormal object has greatly increased, and you are now able to shield deeper influences. Although it feels a bit abstract, it seems I'm not entirely without gains. Staring at the sleeping cap of the God of Tales several times, Leon, having barely grasped some understanding of the situation, furrowed his brows in contemplation. He remembered listening to some content about the supreme four-pillar gods during a chat with Director Aquarius. The old man told him that Asur is a term old soil humans use for order, prosperity, and destiny, whereas sleep in their language, for those on old soil who don't much need sleep, seems to carry the connotation of nearing death and an end. Therefore, the truth grasped by the supreme four-pillar gods, Azure Sleep, translates to disorder, prosperity no more, and destiny's end. Should this ancient pillar god voluntarily enter slumber, then order would no longer be stable, prosperity would decline, and even destiny would fall into chaos. During the exploration of the old soil, narration of non-existence met the already deceased Azure Sleep at different times, borrowing the truth to disrupt order from its three truths, and along with the truth of narration of non-existence, acquired the power to forcibly alter reality. So, the so-called bedtime story is essentially a combination of the two truths, narration of non-existence and order of sleep, where order and rules are forcibly disrupted, granting the originally imaginary story the eligibility to become reality. ZZZ. Through personal deduction and thought, you have gained a wealth of information regarding the bedtime story. Your resistance to this abnormal object has slightly increased, and you are now able to shield a certain degree of influence. Finally, it's activated. Hearing of the activation of materialism and experiencing a familiar relief, as if a heavy burden was lifted, Leon felt a tremendous sense of comfort throughout his body. Even his technique of stroking the cat became a lot more dexterous. Indeed, it has to be materialism. There's even a difference between anomalies. What is the amber-colored immortal in liquor, but courage from a bottle, whereas the man behind the queen, though alluring, remains but a hapless bowl of soft rice. Only my revered materialism is the one true God. Meow, meow, meow. Feeling the sudden increase in strength of the evil prince's cat stroking, alongside the drastic improvement in finger agility, the cat princess in Leon's embrace couldn't help but shiver, happily spreading the paw pads of all 4 feet, trying hard to issue a weak protest. Sorry, I'll be careful next time. With a smile that was uncharacteristic of the evil prince's persona, Leon apologized to the wide-eyed cat princess, without immediately explaining the changes in himself, and turned his head to glance at the reception room's doorway. Shortly thereafter, the cat princess's ears perked up too, faintly capturing the approaching heavy footsteps in the hallway beyond the door. It should be the great Witch Court's captain arriving. Wait, I'm a cat now. Isn't Leon locked by the bedtime story? How can his hearing be better than mine? Could it be he's found a way to escape the bedtime story? I can't completely break free from the bedtime story yet, but I've got some semblance of an idea. From the cat princess's translucent eyes, Leon faintly discerned her thoughts. Finally able to shed part of the persona, a greatly relieved Leon chuckled, pinching the cat princess's highly tactile cheek. Once we wrap things up here, we'll go kidnap the princess and help you properly vent some frustration. Kidnapping the princess? Upon hearing Leon's promise, the cat princess' ears twitched involuntarily, and she meowed in doubt. That imposter posing as herself was indeed hateful, but she, or he was just a character in the bedtime story. Catching her, what use would it be? The significance of capturing her lies in gaining control over the narrative advancement. After contemplating his current situation, Leon, while squeezing the paw pads of the cat princess, thoughtfully answered, although we are also characters in the bedtime story, and we can even vaguely guess some of the story content, we don't know the full picture of the story, so we can only follow it like puppets on strings. And now, although I haven't completely rid myself of limitations, I've gained a bit of freedom. So instead of dragging on for the opponent's story nodes, why not try to take the initiative and see if we can disrupt their plans? It seems somewhat reasonable. Nodding in half understanding, the cat princess intended to ask more, but then footsteps stopped outside the door, followed by cautious knocks on the door panel. Hud, hud, hud. Come in. Honorable Prince. I am the captain of the Grand Shaman Court's guards. You can call me. Turning the doorknob and walking into the room, the captain, who had just heard a bunch of conspiracy theories from the Shaman Society's CEO, couldn't help but scrutinize the evil Prince Lionheart a bit more. At that moment, the sun had just set on the horizon. A dim afterglow shone through the window onto Leon's back, slightly brightening his facial contours while engulfing most of his body in shadow. The shadow cast by Prince Lionheart leaning against the chairback repeatedly elongated under the dim light, spanning over the slightly worn-out tables and chairs, crossing the dark carpet, slowly and ominously pressing toward the doorway. And the little black cat perched on his lap seemed to notice the movement at the door, too, peeking its head out from his palm, its two bright, amber eyes staring fixatedly with a gaze belonging to humans. Startled by Leon's unique presence under the night, the captain's smile instantly froze on his lips, with the eerie gaze from both the man and the cat clearing out much of the speech he had prepared. Continue. Tucking his thumb under the cat princess' chin and gently raising her furry head with the back of his finger, Leon, with most of his body cloaked in shadow, having activated the horror badge effect, said calmly yet irresistibly, "What should I call you?" Gary. You can call me Gary." The captain, snapping back to reality, quickly reported his name, unconsciously taking deep breaths, and bracing himself to step forward under the immense pressure emanating from the King of Nightmares, stopping beside the chair opposite him, followed by a forced smile. "Prince, regarding your maid." "Wait." Interrupting the captain's words, the evil prince raised his right hand, pointing to the chair opposite him, and said calmly, "Have a seat." All right." Hearing Leon's command, the captain of the Grand Shaman Court hesitated for a moment, then subconsciously followed the order and sat on the chair opposite him. However, strangely enough, even though he appeared to be having an equal conversation from standing to sitting, the captain did not feel relaxed. Instead, he felt more and more tense. The darker the outside, the more relaxed the man holding the cat appeared. Yet the pressure emanating from him continued to increase, almost suffocating him. Instinctively scooting forward, sitting with only a small portion of his rear end, and slightly hunching his neck and back, the captain finally managed to breathe more smoothly, vaguely acquiring some bizarre insight. When someone asks you to sit down and talk, it doesn't necessarily signify an equal conversation. He might simply despise looking up at others. "Prince." Attempting to shrink his body as much as possible, the captain, overwhelmed by the horror effect, whispered with his head lowered, "We didn't actually capture your guard. We only caught your maid, but she appeared at the Yarnball Society's base, unable to explain her presence there. So, is there anything wrong with that?" Stroking the silky back of the cat princess, Leon, with most of his upper body relaxed against the chair back, calmly concealed in the shadow, said, "I'm asking, is there anything forbidden about that place?" "Well, the Yarnball Society is an evil underground society that recently planned an assassination attempt on the Grand Shaman King, so..." "False." Observing the captain's dumbfounded look, the evil Prince Lionheart hoisted the cat in his arms slightly, explaining calmly, "The leader of the Yarnball Society is my ally. Our goal is to kidnap Princess Catherine, replace her with a fake, and have her inherit the throne of the Grand Shaman King, not assassinate him, so the Yarnball Society isn't responsible for this. You've caught the wrong person." Uttering an uncontrolled for the fourth time, the astonished captain couldn't help but gawk at Leon in bewilderment. "I admit your explanation is rather persuasive. After all, failing to assassinate the Grand Shaman King isn't necessarily more harmful than your plan. But did you have to be so outright about it?" Since he's able to articulate his plan, it proves that the narration of non-existence doesn't have full control over the bedtime story, likely only over key plot points. As the captain sat dumbfounded on the chair, unsure of what to say, Leon continued contemplating the intelligence about the bedtime story in his mind after testing his freedom degree. In the current situation, the bedtime story by narration of non-existence might just be an outline, Similar to how Snow White will surely eat the poisoned apple, and Sleeping Beauty will prick her finger with a spindle. Even with materialism's backing, he can't defy the predetermined storyline. However, what's under his control seems to be just that. He can decree Snow White eats the poisoned apple, but whether the apple is red or green, whether it's waxed, whether the taste is sweet or sour, he can't control in such detail. To summarize briefly, the closer the plot is to the outline and main line, the stronger the bedtime story-esque binding effect, while things straying from the main line are seldom restricted by the bedtime story. Through detailed testing and summarization, you've acquired substantial information about the bedtime story. Your resistance to this abnormal object has significantly increased, and you're now capable of blocking deeper levels of influence. Guessed right? Hearing the sound by his ear, feeling the considerably loosened constraints, Leon couldn't help the smile lifting his lips, looking up at the hesitant captain opposite him, and inviting him to join his scheme with a smile. Gary, you seem like a talent. Would you like to join my plan and kidnap the princess together? Ah? Hiss. It was unclear if the water temperature was a bit low, or if Princess Catherine felt some sort of malice from the unknown. While taking a bath, she suddenly shivered violently, feeling a chill run through her body. Your Highness. Hearing the sounds coming from the bathing pool, the maid waiting outside the screen promptly inquired softly, "Is the pool water not hot enough? Do you need me to add some hot water for you?" "No." After refusing the maid's offer in a pinched voice, Princess Catherine picked up a comb by the pool, brushed out some tangled chest hair, quickly scrubbed her body, and climbed out of the pool with 2 hairy legs exposed. She grabbed the neatly folded towel and wiped herself down twice. God, being a human is such a hassle. Not bathing makes you sour. Unaware of the true identity hidden under Princess Catherine's disguise, the maid waiting behind the screen hurried to help Princess Catherine change into a bathrobe once she heard the water sound from someone stepping out. Then, with eyes full of envy, she softly said, "Your Highness, your skin is so beautiful. Under the slight shimmer of the pool lights, it looks as if it's glowing. And your figure. None of the sisters in the dancing society who dance daily have such perfect lines as you. Especially your waist and hip curves. They're the most I've ever." "All right." With some impatience, after snapping a little, seeing the maid visibly startled, Dongya had to lower her voice again. She tried hard to put on an elegant demeanor, knitting her eyebrows slightly as she explained, "Sorry, I was just thinking about what happened during the day. That evil Prince Lionheart's reaction had me a little concerned, so my attitude wasn't great, and I scared you." "Oh, no, no." Surprised that Princess Catherine actually apologized to her, the maid quickly shook her head to indicate it was all right, but didn't dare continue talking much. Instead, she picked up a pure white towel and deftly pantomimed drying the non-existent hair. "Judging by her actions, she's probably drying my hair, right?" After watching the maid, who was holding a towel, wrap and repeatedly massage non-existent hair, Princess Catherine couldn't help but ask, "In your eyes, what is that Prince Lionheart like?" "Huh. Like his appearance, temperament, speech, and the feeling he gives you." Considering that as a fellow human, the maid might find it easier to understand the food god than she could. Princess Catherine patiently sat by the pool, allowing the maid to work on the non-existent hair while asking, "My perspective and yours are quite different. Since you happened to be in the hall at the time, I want to hear from your point of view what kind of person that Prince Lionheart is." Well, after listening to Princess Catherine's question, the maid's hands paused momentarily before she hesitantly replied, "That Prince Lionheart. He has an ambitious aura. His gaze is very aggressive, especially when he looks into someone's eyes, like he can see right into your heart, making it a bit daunting to meet his eyes directly." The taste of ambition was probably due to the influence of the bedtime story. As for the rest, that's likely just the food god's traits, and that aggressive look is probably his focused thinking when analyzing someone, as the person seems to have a habit of constantly pondering over his opponents. Satisfied with the maid's answer, Princess Catherine nodded and said, "And what else?" And also, the maid hesitated upon hearing this, then mustered up the courage to say, I think he's probably quite lustful. Ha! Well, he kept staring at your chest. Recalling the focus of Prince Lionheart's gaze, the maid spoke with a slightly disdainful expression. Your position at the time might not have given you a clear view, but I was standing behind you, and his eyes were always glancing at your chest. Chest? After glancing down at her own chest, Princess Catherine fell silent for a moment before realizing what the food god might have been looking at. In the eyes of an ordinary person who hasn't entered the bedtime story, her appearance and voice were identical to Princess Catherine, but to the food god whose power was quite formidable and who had faintly touched the true god's threshold, even if her ability was sealed, some of these disguises could be seen through. So he probably wasn't looking at her chest, but at the chest hair exposed due to wearing a dress, trying to discern her true form under the disguise. Likely, the food god doesn't possess a weakness for lust. What a pity! Under the maid's dazed gaze, Princess Catherine cupped her chest and, with a subtle sigh full of regret, said, If only he were lustful. What does that mean? What do you mean, if only he were lustful? So your reason for rejecting marriage to that freckled-faced prince was simply not being into him, but instead you fancy that Prince Lionheart. This is not entirely unreasonable? Thinking back to the appearance of the evil Prince Lionheart, even the maid who had significant prejudices against him had to admit, while not an unparalleled beauty, Prince Lionheart was definitely young and handsome. Moreover, with his muscular form clearly visible under the tailored suit, there was a youthful vigor unique to young men. Accompanied by steady features and an imposing gaze, he was indeed a man of considerable charm. Besides, the usual men the princess encountered were not burly shamans painted all over, but hunched priests with long robes and beards, and colorful dancers dressed like pheasants, or bald-headed ascetic monks, nearly all of whom were over 50. After seeing such people for so long, suddenly encountering a young and handsome man with decent fashion sense, feeling a bit attracted seems quite reasonable. All right, you can go now. Unaware of how many odd thoughts her words had conjured in the maid's mind, Princess Catherine waved her off and then changed into clothes, leaving the bath area. Your Highness, as Donya, donned in a long dress, walked out with 2 rows of maids in tow. The waiting president of the Shaman Society hurriedly rushed over, reporting with a worried look. The issue with the Yarn Society has been clarified. They did not plan the assassination of the great shaman. Hearing the Shaman Society president's words, Princess Catherine frowned, casting an unhappy glance at him. There was no assassination plot against the great shaman to begin with. I merely wanted you to arrest those participating in the Yarn Society to prevent them from assisting that woman, Black Cat, in causing trouble. Who told you to actually investigate thoroughly? Though internally quite dissatisfied, keeping in mind her persona as the wise princess. Donya had no choice but to return his words with a gentle smile, sighing with feigned contrition. So it wasn't them, after all? It seems I've unjustly blamed them. Not unjustly. Your Highness, they're not entirely innocent. Seeing Princess Catherine exhibit such softness and introspection, even in this situation, the Shaman Society's president's face darkened, expressing frustration at the princess's leniency. Although they did not plan the assassination of the great shaman, their target is you. Your Highness, behind the Yarn Society is that Prince Lionheart, and he's collaborating with the head of the Yarn Society, planning a kidnapping against you. They're currently recruiting people in the streets. Gazing at the suddenly wide-eyed Princess Catherine, the Shaman Society president explained further, swiftly urging her with a tense expression. This matter is of grave importance. I can't move against that Prince Lionheart, but you must quickly order his arrest. Immediately have him deported back to his country, and then permanently refuse him entry. What on earth? Deport the food god back home? If you send him back, wouldn't my trip be in vain? No way. Absolutely not. Before the Shaman Society's chief finished speaking, Princess Catherine was already shaking her head like a rattledrum. I believe in Prince Lionheart. They have always been our allies. Prince would never do such a thing. Is there some sort of misunderstanding here? Misunderstanding? They've already laid their cards on the table. And you're still talking about misunderstandings? Do you want them to come at you, catch you, and only then will you believe it's not a misunderstanding? Seeing Princess Catherine so naive, the Shaman Society's chief couldn't help but get annoyed. Your Highness, this isn't something that can be resolved with a misunderstanding. Let me think about it more. You may leave for now. Your Highness, you may go. I know what I'm doing. After forcefully dismissing the loyal Shaman Society chief, Princess Catherine found a quiet room, dismissed the maids, and immediately shed her previous calm demeanor, anxiously clutching the earrings. Something's happened. As the earring faintly glowed, Dongya urgently spoke up. White Snake, come out quickly. The food god has started to act. I suspect there's something wrong with the bedtime story. What? He seems to have freed himself from the bedtime story's influence and is telling people everywhere that he's going to kidnap me. White Snake, we'd better leave quickly. I have a vague premonition that if we don't leave now, it might be too late. Don't panic. Let me contact the master. After hearing Dongya's report of the anomaly, the startled White Snake hastily contacted Narration of Non-Existence. And after listening to their descriptions, the pitch-black raven incarnation of Narration of Non-Existence pondered for a moment, then confidently judged. Rest assured, he is not broken free from my bedtime story. If I'm not mistaken, this is just a desperate probe by him. The situation is still under my control. But he's already free from the constraints. Dongya hastily said. Right now we're all just ordinary people. If he truly breaks free from the bedtime story's influence and regains his abilities, we won't even have a chance to escape. I think it would be best if we leave. Dongya, calling out to Princess Catherine. Interrupting his discouraging words, the raven perched on his shoulder gently stated. Truth cannot be defied. Once the story I tell is established, it cannot be altered unless I choose to do so. Not even the resurrected third director of the Cleanup Bureau could escape from the story I've woven. But he, Dongya, the food god has not yet broken free from my story. The raven, like a human with its wings folded behind, stared with unblinking black eyes and said, what he's doing now may appear to have broken free, but actually he remains within his role and has not deviated from the nodes set in my story. He seems to be merely testing the boundaries of my abilities. Boundaries? The maximum extent of my control over the story. Slightly admiringly, the raven shrouded in black smoke explained. He seems to have inferred part of bedtime story's rules through recent events, realizing I can't control every situation but can only govern key story nodes. Hence, he's testing my control range with this method. Among those targeted by my bedtime story lock, he's not the only one aware of this, but he is the fastest to react and the boldest. Others locked by bedtime story immediately resist the story I arranged, hoping to avoid predetermined destiny. But the food god was different. After realizing he couldn't escape the constraints, he quickly shifted mindsets and proactively tested the boundaries of my ability, attempting to seize power to drive the story forward, which indeed disrupted my original rhythm considerably. Master! Hearing Narration of Non-Existence's words, the silently listening White Snake couldn't help but ask, do we need to do anything? Should we try to stop his actions? It's best not to. Slightly shaking his head, Narration of Non-Existence said. In the original Destiny in Bedtime Story, the food god was supposed to kidnap the Princess Catherine of the Witch Kingdom, attempt to place a fake princess on the Grand Sorcerer King's throne, and ultimately be executed by furious citizens after being defeated by the real Princess Catherine. Therefore, if we obstruct his actions now, it would be opposing the correct story trajectory. Not only would it be unlikely to succeed, but we would also face restraints from bedtime story. Since this node in the story I set has Prince Lionheart in a dominant position, at least until Dongya is kidnapped, we cannot oppose him. So we're just going to watch him mess around, and we can't do anything? It's not like there's absolutely nothing we can do. The raven on Dongya's shoulder thought for a moment, then slightly grinned with a bird-like smile. Since he's choosing to speed things up to disrupt my set story, why don't we follow along with the acceleration? Dongya, perhaps you could actively seek him out and give him the opportunity to catch you next. What? Don't be afraid, he can't harm you. With full confidence, the raven on Dongya's shoulder said. Although his manner of dealing with situations took me by surprise, I still hold the story's nodes in my hand. No matter what he does between them, the story will still progress according to the nodes I've established. When you approach him and give him the opportunity to catch you, he can only comply, replace you with the black cat, and move to the next story node until reaching his end at the gallows. Following the food god to accelerate and offering myself up to let him catch me? After contemplating narration of non-existence, S-plan, Princess Catherine felt a chilling cold surge from her tailbone to the top of her head along her spine. Even though I don't understand the story, I do know the food god. Even without using disaster avoidance, I know this is a damn death sentence. No, no, no. Let's be more cautious. The thrush, feeling a chill from the disaster avoidance, glanced at the crow on his shoulder as if looking at a big fool, quickly shook his head, and rejected with an awkward smile. My thought is, since everything is still within your control, we don't need to rush into changes. If we make a mistake, it could make things worse. Don't worry, the truth is absolutely infallible. So, until the story ends completely, nothing will happen to you wherever you are. Seeing through what the thrush was really afraid of, the black crow's pupils flickered quickly twice, and then it softly implied, even if I wanted to harm you, when you're caught by the food god and forcibly end the bedtime story, don't you still have the truth that can avoid him 100%? With his biggest secret revealed on the spot, the thrush's pupils involuntarily shrank suddenly, and his face instantly flushed red. Shrinking his neck, he stammeringly questioned, how do you know? I just noticed you panic whenever the food god is mentioned and made a random guess. But it turned out to be true. Seeing the thrush's reaction mixed with surprise and embarrassment, the narration of non-existence couldn't help but open its beak wide, finding it hard to maintain composure on its bird face. The truth that pillar gods hold is usually based on their original power and an intense desire that surged at the moment they crossed the pillar god's threshold, which was then engraved into the world order, becoming part of the world's rules. For instance, having the power of the story, at the moment of becoming a pillar god, my greatest wish was to turn fiction into reality. Thus, I gained the truth named the narration of non-existence, which allowed me to turn false stories into true ones. As for the thrush, seeing the thrush's flushed face and awkward demeanor, the narration of non-existence couldn't help but take a few deep breaths, suddenly feeling a foreboding called Slaughter King Association is doomed. If my guess is correct, when the thrush crossed the pillar god's threshold, he was probably cowering in some corner, praying that the food god wouldn't discover he was still alive. This fool was originally a true god representing calamities, holding the powers of disaster and chaos. And these disaster-related powers, combined with extreme fear of the food god, successfully forged the most rubbish truth ever. A truth that specifically avoids disasters related to that food god. For God's sake, could you be any more worthless? I didn't really want this either. From the silence of the narration of non-existence and the white snake, the thrush sensed a repressed, strange emotion, and as a true god who still had some dignity, the thrush, with a flushed face, reluctantly tried to save face for himself. Mainly, I was in a fierce battle with the food god at the time and didn't notice I'd already crossed the pillar god's threshold, so I didn't have the chance to control my thoughts consciously to choose the type of truth to forge. Additionally, at that time, I had very important information and was thinking that I had to survive to bring it back to you all somehow. So I thought if I could evade the food god, that would work, so... Alright, there's no need to explain further. The narration of non-existence, finding it hard to maintain facial composure, turned away from the embarrassed thrush and spoke. Your ability, though crap, has limited adaptability, but it's coincidentally fitting for now. Since you won't have any problems no matter how you encounter the food god, why not just stick close to him, get caught on purpose, and quickly push the story to the next node? Any issues? No. None. His overwhelming shame and the double insurance provided by two truths finally suppressed the fear in his heart. The thrush, wishing he could dig a hole to hide in, reluctantly accepted the task. Yet, just as the crow on Catherine Princess's shoulder spread its wings, preparing to fly off him, the thrush couldn't help but awkwardly inquire. I remember there's a rule in our association that any official member who becomes a pillar god can be promoted directly to vice president. Does this still hold? Indeed, we have this rule. After all, a pillar god holds a truth, which can't be too weak. But when the president set this rule, they probably never imagined an oddball like you would appear, staring at the disgrace of the pillar gods in front of him for a long while. Considering that the thrush is still a pillar god despite everything, the narration of non-existence, full of complex feelings, reluctantly nodded. It holds. Forget it. Really, just forget it. After accepting a flyer from a certain prince and looking at its contents, the dancing girl, dressed quite skimpily, couldn't help but turn pale and then shakily toss the flyer back as if it were a hot potato. I'm a dancing girl of the Masquerade Society by life, and a dead dancing girl of the Masquerade Society by death. I have no intention to join any other society, and I really can't do this sort of thing. Really not even going to consider? After catching the flyer, the dancing girl tossed back, smoothly smoothing out its wrinkles. The evil Prince Lionheart enthusiastically promoted. The Yarn Ball Society offers excellent benefits. As long as you're willing to lend me a helping hand, we'll storm into the Grand Sorcerer's court and kidnap Princess Catherine. I guarantee you'll be granted a title. Hey, don't walk away. You've already signed the survey. Even if you don't join, you can still claim some goodies. No. I don't want anything. Great, money saved. Watching the small gifts on the shopping cart, not a single one taken, Leon nodded in satisfaction, then turned his head to look at the hooded black-robed witch beside him. So, was that person's signature genuine? It should be genuine. Holding the survey signed by the dancing girl, which was folded onto a Yarn Ball Society membership application, the hooded black-robed witch whispered a few incantations, and the survey on top quickly dissolved into fluffy material and wood fibers. The signature, originally attached to the survey, seeped downward, imprinting clearly onto the Yarn Ball Society's indenture contract. Membership application. Good, that's another one. After patting the heart of ambition nestled in the mutton, confirming that one more target was now in his control, the evil prince nodded in satisfaction, then pushed the cart and survey forms to target the next victim. However, just as Leon stopped a bald blessing monk, ready to coax her into signing the survey, a familiar figure suddenly emerged from the corner of the street not far ahead. Question mark. Exclamation point. Upon making eye contact with the evil prince, the thrush, who was out to advance the plot, shuddered all over. Without waiting for Leon to call out, it turned and ran away without hesitation. Damn it! Stop right there! Irritated by Catherine's overly intense reaction, the white snake earrings on Princess Catherine's ears couldn't help but shake violently. Why are you running? You came here to get caught. Bastard! You're still running. All right, I did come to get caught. After being scolded by the white snake several times, Catherine, driven by instinct, reluctantly stopped running away and took 2 steps back towards her pursuer, then retreated 3 steps. These legs, these feet, why won't they listen to me? Standing at a street corner about 20 meters from the evil prince, after scuffing my shoes for a while, I managed to increase the distance to over 30 meters, amidst the ever-angrier curses of the white snake. Finally, as the newly appointed vice president of the Slaughter King Association, Catherine stopped, mainly because there was no room to retreat further beyond the street corner wall. Your Highness the Prince. Despite all the psychological preparation, she didn't dare utter the name that even the gods feared, standing awkwardly at the street corner, facing Leon from 30 meters away. Regarding the Yarn Ball Society issue, shouldn't you give me an explanation? What are you saying? I can't hear you. I said Yarn Ball Society. Louder. Come closer and say it. Yarn. Question mark. Forget it, what is there to say? Tightening her fists and hammering down on her trembling legs in harsh punishment, amidst the frantic warnings of disaster avoidance, exceeding 5 times per second. The newly appointed vice president of the Slaughter King Association decisively chose to listen to her inner voice. Given the situation, let's go back to the palace for a meal. It's not that I'm afraid of anyone. It's mainly because the weather isn't great for getting caught today. I'll try again tomorrow. Your Highness. Just as Catherine persuaded her unreliable legs to take a bold first step away from the evil prince, a figure filled with joyous surprise emerged from the street corner. Looking at the bewildered face of Princess Catherine, the captain of the Grand Sorceress's Guard was overjoyed, quickly leading 2 squads of watchful guards toward her. Though he was shocked by the terrifying passive effect of Terror Instant, when dealing with the evil prince, the captain of the Grand Sorceress's Guard still had some steadfast loyalty and didn't agree to join the kidnap the princess plan. After all, the Grand Sorceress's court is essentially the palace of another kingdom, and the captain of the court's guard equates to the palace guard captain, who is naturally a staunch royalist with 0 chance of betraying the kingdom rashly. However, what left the captain uneasy was that although he sincerely warned the court about the evil prince and refused his recruitment, the court seemed not to have received any reports. The whole day passed without a peep, making him uneasy. He could only lead 2 squads to keep watch to prevent the evil prince from stirring trouble. But now it's better. Princess Catherine must have figured out a plan to counter. She brought people to... Wait, why is she alone? Holding the evidence he had gathered on the evil prince over the past few days, he excitedly rushed to Princess Catherine, only to find her without guards or maids, even without any attendant. The captain's excited expression stiffened on his face. What is this supposed to mean? He's boasting everywhere about wanting to kidnap you, and you came here alone? Isn't this just ordering him to seize you? Who are you? Facing the guards blocking her path, Princess Catherine's brow furrowed naturally as she yelled hostilely. Move aside. This doesn't concern you. You... Hey, get out of the way. Glancing back over her shoulder, the slender figure of Princess Catherine suddenly exploded with the strength of a strongman, pushing the tall guard captain to the ground. She then fled quickly amidst strange curses. Watching as Princess Catherine darted away like she was being chased by a dog, her agile figure covering several meters at a time, the guard captain, still sitting on the ground, was flabbergasted. What in the world is Her Highness trying to do? Capture the evil prince? Or let the evil prince capture her? I don't quite understand. Are you okay? Amidst the guard captain's confusion, a familiar voice accompanies the hand reaching towards him. I'll help you up. Oh, thank you. Instinctively expressing thanks, the guard captain grabs the offered hand, stands with its strength, and finds a pen and pamphlets stuffed into his hands. You're welcome, take it. Clenching the pamphlet filled with anti-witch statements, watching the evil prince in front, the guard captain can't help but shiver. If you really want to thank me, just sign it. Smiling broadly at the captain's stunned face, Leon squints, gazing at Catherine's distant retreating figure, and sighs. Seems like someone who doesn't belong here, a princess of the prestigious Mephala kingdom, without the courage to face me directly. How can she lead this country along with such a cowardice? In my opinion, we might as well detain her and replace her with a more daring and promising princess. Only then will this kingdom have a future. Don't you agree, Galileo? My name is Gary. Correcting instinctively, glancing at the sinister prince before him and the already distant Princess Catherine. The Grand Sorceress's Guard captain clicks his tongue helplessly and speaks with confusion. Your Highness, what is Princess Catherine up to? What are you up to? You too. I don't quite understand. Haha, even though you have 5 or 6 contamination value points, and barely a novice third-class cleaner's level, Our contest among those surpassing 50 contamination value points makes your understanding impossible. Watching the confused Grand Sorceress's guard captain, Leon quietly changes the pamphlet into an application form and points cheerfully below it. Sign this, and I'll tell you. Faced with the temptation of the truth, the captain of the Grand Witch Court's guard ultimately couldn't resist and signed his name on the membership application for the Yarnball Society. Steady. Feeling the newly acquired +1 disposable target, the evil prince who successfully turned the captain of the Grand Witch Court's guard nodded in satisfaction, then adhered to the agreement and revealed the truth. I want to catch her, but it's not the right time. She wants to be caught by me, but she's a bit timid. Oh? You've said each word I can understand individually, but when put together, why does it make me so confused? Confused? It's supposed to be confusing. I only promised to tell you the truth, not to make you understand it. Smiling at the still confused captain, Leon didn't offer any further explanation. Instead, he tucked away the newly acquired indenture contract and turned back to his original position, ready to hunt for the next prey. After witnessing him trick yet another worker, exhibiting that satisfied expression, the cat girl, which waiting by the roadside couldn't hold back anymore and proactively asked, Your Highness, the people you've brought into the Yarnball Society, though elites from various societies, are in terms of actual strength inferior to even a level 3 cleaner in most cases. Is there any point to what you're doing? Of course there is. Smiling at the puzzled cat girl, which Leon responded with a counter-question. Have you noticed a slight reduction in the constraints on yourself? ? Startled by Leon's counter-question, the cat girl, which instinctively checked her condition, and was surprised to find that the bindings on her from the bedtime story seemed genuinely weakened, although the degree of weakening was far from enough to escape control, and would be hard to notice if not deliberately sensed. She indeed felt significantly freer than before, even capable of uttering words contrary to her role. This is one of the purposes of my continuous recruitment. Before the cat girl, which could inquire further, Leon proactively explained, I've pretty much figured out the rules of the bedtime story. While its effect is extremely powerful, it also has many limitations, especially regarding the total Leon value. Total. That is, the sum of the total Leon value of all targets pulled into the story. After explaining the concept of total, Leon squinted slightly and said, Pisces Division was stationed in Secret Magic City before. With the Slaughter King Association's hostility towards our cleaning bureau, if they had a chance to completely capture the Pisces Division, they wouldn't have let it slip. However, they didn't include the Pisces Division within the bedtime story to eliminate them. Instead, they allowed Pisces Division to retreat because they couldn't do it. The bedtime story itself has limitations. It's challenging to capture so many targets simultaneously. Moreover, although the bedtime story covers the entire Secret Magic City, the number of individuals truly caught up in it isn't as many as it seems. The vast majority are merely bystanders unrelated to the story. Currently, only you, me, the imposter princess, and a few unavoidable people and forces in the story plot are truly involved in the bedtime story and affected by its binding, like my Yarnball Society. Upon hearing this, the cat girl witch's expression subtly shifted as if she suddenly understood something, and she said with a look of realization, No wonder they are targeting the Yarnball Society. They're not worried about me utilizing the power of the Yarnball Society, but are concerned about me dragging its people into the story. Exactly. That's precisely what I pinpointed. Seeing the cat girl, which instantly grasped the point, Leon couldn't help but nod approvingly, then patted the thick stack of indenture contracts in the small cart and continued explaining with a chuckle. The members you've chosen for the Yarnball Society are more than half composed of the elites from the 17 great societies. Although most of them are not adept at combat and might not defeat a level 3 cleaner, their combat power can be entirely disregarded. Nevertheless, after years of researching various mystical powers, their own Leon value is quite high, at least around the level of a level 2 cleaner. Some outstanding ones even touch the threshold of a level 1 cleaner, and the sum of their Leon values is substantial. Although the bedtime story created by the narration of non-existence can disrupt order and transform falsehood into truth, it ultimately remains a fictional story. The greater the disparity between the crafted story and reality, and the more and stronger the people affected by the bedtime story, the more power is consumed. And coincidentally, your yarn ball society contains dozens or hundreds of cleaners, almost equivalent to another Pisces division. The narration of non-existence can only control the story's nodes and general direction, unable to manage a complete story, so it's tough to exclude the entire yarn ball society. Thus, to be prudent, they chose to act first by concocting a fictitious assassination of the Grand Witch King, aiming to dismantle your yarn ball society, preventing you from dragging these people into the bedtime story during your resistance and adding an extra burden for him. I understand now. Upon hearing this, the cat girl which fully comprehended Leon's plan and said with bright eyes and joy, "You're recruiting people into my yarn ball society to continuously broaden the scope of the bedtime story. Extend it until the person weaving the story can no longer endure." Though the constraints from the bedtime story had been diluted significantly with the Yarn Ball Society's new members signing the indenture contracts, the cat girl which still couldn't entirely escape and struggled to fully articulate the name of narration of non-existence. So she switched tactics, saying, "Expand it to the point where even the storyteller can't hold it any longer. Even if he possesses the undisputed truth, it requires power to wield it. Even if we can't completely escape the bindings, we can distribute the intensity of the binding." Exactly. Seeing that the cat girl which had grasped his idea, Leon smiled and then said, "What we need to do next is to continue stuffing people into your yarn ball society. The more and stronger the people, the weaker the constraints on us, and the more power we can wield. Once our power is restored to a certain degree, we can kidnap the presidents of the 17 great societies and force each member to press their fingerprints to join, then lead them into the Grand Witch Court. We'll capture the ineffectual Grand Witch King and coerce her into abdicating." Oops, that was my usual spiel while handing out flyers. Noticing the cat girl witch's expression was hard to maintain, Leon quickly subdued his mischievous air, donned a serious face, and corrected his words. "Not coerce, but invite. We can invite Her Majesty the Grand Witch King to order all individuals in Secret Magic City and throughout the Witch Kingdom with a Leon value to press their fingerprints and drag them all into the story. And by then, even if the bedtime story concocted by the narration of non-existence can still be maintained, its binding effects would be diluted 1,000-fold, rendering them effectively non-existent. Furthermore, at this point, Leon paused slightly, then curiously hypothesized, "I'm quite keen on figuring out, since the truth is inexorable, would the pillar god who laid down this truth end up being drained to death by his truth when he can no longer bear the cost of utilizing his truth? Oh no, something's wrong." As Leon and the cat princess stood at the entrance of various societies, continually pulling people into the Yarn Society, a slightly anxious voice suddenly came from the white snake earring dangling from Princess Catherine's ear. Thrush, after subconsciously calling out, narration of non-existence, who had always maintained a calm and assured demeanor, uncharacteristically demanded, "What's going on? Why haven't you been caught yet? Why hasn't the story progressed?" Faced with the questioning from narration of non-existence, Princess Catherine, who had run 2 blocks, finally stopped and hesitantly said, "I just tried to proceed, but my powers kept warning me, so you ran away again?" Gritting his teeth at Thrush's response, narration of non-existence restrained the urge to scold, considering the abnormal situation he had just discovered, and urgently inquired, "Never mind, let's talk about this later. First, tell me what the food god and the black cat were just doing. They seemed to be pulling people everywhere." Recalling the scene he had just witnessed, Princess Catherine uncertainly responded, "I didn't see too clearly, but the president of the Shaman Society reported before that they've been recruiting people into the Yarn Society since yesterday, saying they wanted to kidnap me, probably doing that just now. It seems the rules of bedtime story have been discovered by them." After listening to Thrush's description, narration of non-existence fell into silence, regretting his previous overcautious actions. If he hadn't targeted the Yarn Society for stability, they might not have discovered the rules of Bedtime Story. But when he previously staged similar setups with Bedtime Story, none of the targets reacted. Why did the food god manage to uncover the issue this time? Silently frustrated for a while, Narration of Non-Existence instructed Thrush to stay put. Then, dense black mist seeped from the white snake earring, transforming into a jet-black crow that soared high into the sky. Indeed, it has been seen through, using the crow's sharp eyes. Narration of Non-Existence located Leon and another 2 streets away. Seeing the monk drawn into the story by the evil prince, he sighed, completely dispelling any hope, and returned to perch on Princess Catherine's shoulder. Be prepared. Meeting Princess Catherine's somewhat bewildered expression, the crow, which Narration of Non-Existence had transformed into, spoke solemnly. They've found the weakness of Bedtime Story. The longer we delay, the worse it is for us. You must let yourself be captured by him as soon as possible. Wasn't everything fine before? How did it suddenly go downhill? Sensing Narration of Non-Existence's determination to deliver herself to the food god, Thrush hesitantly remarked, "But as soon as I get close to him, my truth will. Entering my story means prioritizing adherence to my truth." In the widened eyes of Princess Catherine, black mist from the crow rapidly expanded, engulfing her entirely and plunging into her through every pore. With the invasion of black mist, the disaster avoidance spell, which had been ringing alarms, seemed forcefully thrown into a deep, murky quagmire, abruptly quieting. Even though the chilling warning bell occasionally pierced the mire's blockade, its soul-clearing effect was now blunted, leaving her muddled and sluggish. "You! Go find him!" Sensing the diminishing constraints of Bedtime Story, Narration of Non-Existence abandoned all patience and negotiation, coldly threatening Thrush, whose eyes were filled with an angry glare. Pillar gods can't be killed, but they can be sealed, especially with your true form here. Thrush, the Pisces Bureau only retreated from Secret Magic City. They haven't gone far. I can send your true form to them any time, or even let the food god enjoy your flesh. Do it. I won't repeat myself. Lovely medium lady. Unaware of the divine scandal being forced 2 blocks away, Leon, with gifts purchased by the cat princess's savings, stopped a middle-aged woman in a colorful headscarf and inquired with a friendly smile. "May the cat bless you. Would you be interested in learning about our Yarn Society? Just signing your name gets you a gift." "No need." Facing the black-haired man blocking the way, the headscarf-wearing middle-aged woman raised her head and sternly said, "I've heard from others in the society, your Yarn Society seems nice, but I'm already part of the Medium Society's mediums, so it's fine. Our Yarn Society's president is very open-minded and doesn't mind members belonging to multiple societies. You don't need to worry about us not accepting you." "You might not mind, but I do. And weren't you just saying a signature would suffice? Why does it now sound like joining your Yarn Society is required? Get out of my way." The evil prince's relentless persistence frustrated the medium lady, who irritatedly reached into her robe, pulled out a few yellowed fish scales, and disdainfully threatened, "I have no interest in your dubious underground society. If you don't move, I'll summon spirits. Don't rush, don't rush." Through the black goat's soul vision, perceiving the medium's powerful spiritual aura, Leon patiently explained, "You might not believe it, but your witch kingdom is facing a major crisis. The only potential solution lies with our Yarn Society, so I hope you can, well, all right." Seeing the determined woman crush the dried fish scales, spreading their powder on her lips, Leon sighed and quietly replaced the flyer in his hand with an application form, extending it to her. Question mark. Glancing at the application with confusion, the medium lady cautiously stepped back and instantly invoked the Medium Society's summoning secret technique. Upon the technique's completion, the gate of death opened a crack, summoning several powerful souls to respond and temporarily return, possessing the medium lady. With her pupils flickering, her eye colors reversed, emitting a dense deathly aura. Ancient spirits occupied her living body. I heard your call. With a nasally, theatrical intonation, the possessed medium lady wickedly smiled, gazing upon the helpless evil prince. Are you the food god? Come here, come. Leon glanced at the spirits possessing the female medium but, finding no familiar ones, skipped the pleasantries and beckoned the woman who had instinctively started to retreat. Sign this for me. Once you're done, head back quickly. You're dead, so stop frequenting the living world. Got it. Oh, okay. Seeing that terrifying face known to every soul in the realm of the dead, the ancient spirits summoned by the summoning secret skill hastily picked a representative. Using the female medium's body, it shakily signed its name on the society application form. Something's not right? Looking at the name on the application form and then at the medium's fairly delicate face, Leon frowned. She's named Hans? No. As the fearsome food god frowned, seemingly dissatisfied, the female medium quickly shook her head, worried about being eaten. It's me. I was called Hans when I was alive. Why are you signing it? I need her signature. After blinking speechlessly, Leon sent the dense spirit back and called forth a smarter one to help the female medium sign the application form, then waved them off. All right, you all can go now. Oh, wait. Leon, remembering something, grabbed the escaping spirits, who shrieked in terror, and said sternly, I might visit the medium society later. If any mediums summon you again, you must respond and come back to sign for me. Understood? We. Speak up. Certainly. We'll definitely come back next time. All right, off you go. After releasing the summoned spirits and watching them flee towards the gate of the deceased, Leon sighed regretfully. What a pity. These spirits had a high enough contamination value. Unfortunately, not only were they not from the Witch Kingdom, but they weren't even alive anymore. Even pulling them into the bedtime story wouldn't assign them a plot, rendering them unable to weaken the bind. Otherwise, by controlling the medium society and having the mediums constantly summon spirits, he could have easily overwhelmed the narration of non-existence and ended the bedtime story in one fell swoop. What did you do? As Leon lamented, the female medium, having regained control of her body, exclaimed in horror, Where are the spirits? Why did the spirits I summoned leave? Maybe they left in such a hurry they forgot to turn off the gas. Leon quipped casually, then helped the depleted female medium to the roadside to rest, turning his gaze toward the medium society from which she had emerged, contemplating the possibility of using familiarity for a forceful entry. According to what the Cat Princess told him, all societies in the Witch Kingdom could be grouped into 4 main factions. First was the Fate faction, represented by the 4 societies of fate interpretation, astrology, divination, and numerology, headquartered near the Observatory and Crystal Street on the east side of the Grand Witch Court. They were known for half-baked fortune-telling methods, which, besides deception and weather forecasting, didn't accomplish much. The second was the Secret Technique faction, represented by the societies of witchcraft, curses, runes, and contracts. Each had some peculiar yet not very powerful secret techniques often attachable to artifacts, with headquarters mainly scattered around the artifact market on the west side of the Grand Witch Court. Lastly were the Rational faction, led by the Silver Sages and academic societies, and the Descent faction, comprising the 7 societies of shamans, totemists, priests, mediums, exorcists, blessing monks, and proxies. They occupied the north and south sides of the Grand Witch Court, respectively. The former frequent libraries and universities, representing the elite class of the secret magic city and the entire Witch Kingdom, receiving substantial budgets annually, engaged in enigmatic research. The Descent faction, known for godly descent and spirit summoning abilities, was the most grounded, with headquarters near markets, theaters, and churches, blending with the largest residential area on the north side of the secret magic city, exuding a vibrant community feel. The easiest society to deal with among the Descent faction was the Medium Society, seemingly connected to funeral businesses. Looking at the Medium Society's structure resembling a funeral parlor, With its black and white theme adorned with flowers and flags, Leon's mouth twitched, abandoning the idea of entering immediately, turning to the cat which beside him for advice. Which floor is the Medium Society president's office on? Why are you asking? I don't really want to go inside. Glancing at the uninviting 5-story building, Leon clicked his tongue disdainfully and suggested, if the Medium Society president's office faces the street, let's break his window and bring him out, forcing him to agree to merge the Medium Society with our Yarnball Society. I knew it. I'll never follow your train of thought. Partially understanding Leon's logic, the desensitized cat which sighed, then motioned toward the female medium Leon had helped to the side of the road, who was now dazedly seated on a stone slab. You can just talk to her if you're looking for the Medium Society president. Her? Leon was slightly taken aback. She's the Medium Society president? Acting president. Sympathetically glancing at the dumbfounded female medium, the cat which whispered, the old president presided over his funeral last week and should now be in the realm of the dead. The new president hasn't been chosen yet, so his favorite student is acting for now, which is her. Ah, I see. Understanding the female medium's identity, Leon nodded in realization, then approached the morally shattered medium with a smile amid the cat witch's awkward expression. Hello, beautiful. Retrieving the indenture contract from the cart and reviewing the scribbled handwriting, Leon's increasingly thick-skinned expression remained unchanged as he continued. Beautiful Marina, I believe your medium society is currently facing a massive crisis. Merging wholly into our Yarnball Society is the only way to overcome this crisis. What do you think? Consider it. Our medium society is facing a crisis, and the only way to get out of this predicament is to merge with your Yarnball Society? Confronted by the recruitment from the evil prince, the female medium sitting on the roadside stone was at a loss for how to respond. She remembered flying over the observatory last night when an old swindler from the Divination Society stopped her flying carpet, saying that she was about to face great trouble and must pay him to sort out her fate trajectories through her Fate Society nephew, or else disaster would surely strike by tomorrow. At that time, she almost laughed out of anger, cursed him while walking away, and handed 2 letters of complaint to the Divination and Fate Societies, reminding them to address con artists. Unexpectedly, the old swindler actually predicted correctly, based on having already flipped the similar situation once, and the mindset of not always disbelieving the supernatural. The middle-aged female medium finally couldn't help but ask after a moment of silence. The crisis you mentioned, specifically, what does it refer to? Does inability to use the summoning secret skill count? With a bit of pondering, Leon offered an example. Just like now, if you refuse to merge, I will agree with the spirits from the realm of the dead that whenever you use the summoning secret skill, the gate of the deceased will be blocked to not allow a single spirit out. So you're the source of the crisis. Infuriated by the evil prince's words, the exhausted middle-aged female medium propped herself on the stone, gritted her teeth, and angrily rebuked. Who do you think you are? Though I am merely the acting president of the Medium Society, I barely squeeze into the top 5. There are several more powerful mediums above me. They might not be all of your. As long as they are mediums, I can guarantee they won't be able to deal with me. Interrupting the middle-aged female medium's words, Leon cheerfully introduced himself. Besides, although I am still alive, the gate of the deceased indeed belongs to my control. Without my nod for passage, you can be sure you won't even summon the spirit of a dog. Nonsense. Obviously, the gatekeeper of the gate of the deceased is the guardian of the god of death. How could you? Are you really this out of touch? Leon raised his eyebrow in some surprise. As a medium constantly communicating with deceased spirits, you actually didn't know the guardian death dog is gone? Gone? How did it go? It was eaten. It was eaten? With disbelief written all over her face, the middle-aged female medium pressed the question. That was a true god. How could anyone eat a true god? Me. Aren't you capable of communicating with spirits? If you don't believe it, just ask a few spirits and you'll find out. Although everything sounded like nonsense, the overly straightforward manner of the man before her, reminded of his ability to easily dispel the spirits she summoned, led the middle-aged female medium to eventually reach into her small side bag and hesitantly pull out a small jar of moon-white bone powder. This is another secret technique of the medium society, mainly used to communicate with newly deceased souls. Seemingly noticing Leon's curiosity, the cat-eared witch beside him slightly turned her head and softly explained. Upon obtaining consent from the deceased's family, mediums from the medium society can take half of the deceased's bones, combine with herbs, offerings, clay, and several other materials to burn, and create a temporary vessel for the spirit to reside. If the summoned soul hasn't lost its memory on the no-return path, or because of lingering obsessions remained in the city of regret, then it can appear through these ashes to answer some questions. As the cat princess explained, the middle-aged female medium took out a bottle of dark red potion, spread the bone powder in her palm, and then blew it forward vigorously. Poof! The slightly sticky moon-white particles dispersed with the wind, yet as if landing on something, they strangely hovered in the air, and as the ashes blown by the female medium accumulated, the dust stuck on certain things gradually outlined a relatively clear shape. Marina! The transparent bone-ash figure, with unclear eyes opened, laboriously glanced at the complex expression of the female medium before her, barely identifying who she was, and couldn't help asking in surprise. I just died last week, and you already have questions for me? Professor! After slightly bowing to the ash figure, the middle-aged female medium asked urgently, I want to ask you something. Is it true that the guardian god of death watching over the gate of the deceased has been eaten? Even you already know about this. The ash figure, upon hearing this, first widened its eyes in surprise, then nodded. Probably about 2 months ago, a lunatic from the cleansing bureau passed by the gate of the deceased, likely wanting to handle some affairs in the realm of the dead, ended up being swallowed by the guardian god of death. Then, seemingly provoked, not only did he reverse and kill the guardian god of death, but he also dug out the heart and started gnawing on it before all death messengers that came to investigate. Toot toot toot. The ash figure, with countless wrinkles on its face, seemed quite gossipy, seen shaking its head in wonder. Let me tell you, behind the gate of the deceased there is still a massive blood puddle where the guardian god of death got killed, with occasional death replay scenes witnessed during active periods of the gate of the deceased. Make sure to check it once you're dead. Oh, but remember, don't discuss this with anyone after you look. Dominators of the realm of the dead don't seem to like souls chatting about it, even prohibiting mentioning the person's name. I overheard this while passing through Baigu Palace. Seems like the person is called something in Leon Lane. Right, that's the name. The ears etched out by the bone powder slightly trembled. Hearing the sound behind, the ash figure delightedly turned around, squinting eyes assessing the evil prince and cat princess, then asking with appreciation. Able to get news about the realm of the dead, you sure are informed. Are you 2 new mediums of the society? No, we are from the Yarnball Society. Leon shook his head, then said with a smile. But no worries, we'll soon be like family. Haha, good. Family is good. Patting the evil prince's shoulder warmly to express appreciation for the outstanding junior, leaving a handprint of ash on his clothes, the ash figure jovially asked, Young man, you look unfamiliar. Did you attend my funeral last week? What's your name? My name is Leon Lane. Lane? Upon hearing Leon's words, the ash figure with a hand resting on his shoulder paused in silence, then frantically squeezed its eyelids, focusing all nearby bone powder on its eyes, rendering the originally blurred eyeballs into a clear outline. And when it scrutinized Leon's appearance once again with clearer eyes, the bone ash evenly spread on its body started gathering around the throat, letting out a terrified scream. Ah! It seems that what he said must be true. Watching the teacher who screamed and then disappeared, leaving ashes scattered everywhere, the middle-aged female medium's heart finally fell completely. Not to mention whether the gate of the deceased is managed by this madman in front of her. Just his behavior of daring to kill the eating true god when he's angry has left her and the Society of Mediums with no choice but to surrender immediately or be beaten before surrendering. Oh, a medium society that has existed for thousands of years, with a history older than many human kingdoms, is really ending in my hands this time. I am the sinner of the Society of Mediums. Lord Leon. Bowing her head to the evil prince to show submission, the middle-aged female medium, with reddened eyes, said with some choking, regarding the merger of the Society of Mediums into the Yarnball Society, I will try my best to persuade the members with the teacher, just begging you, please give us a little more time. No problem, no problem. Seeing the female medium who was evidently hit hard and seemed like she could burst into tears at any moment, Leon, feeling guilty, quickly comforted her warmly. Don't worry. Our Yarnball Society manages things very loosely. After the merge, you can handle things as you always did. We basically won't force you to do anything. What about those things written on the flyers? Except for attacking the Grand Witch Court. After looking at each other in silence with the middle-aged female medium for more than 10 seconds, Leon decisively gave up explaining further and left the front door of the Society of Mediums with the Catgirl Witch. Misunderstanding is better than letting the Slaughter King Association kill the Cat Princess, and having a bunch of true gods smuggling themselves into the mortal world from morning to night. How are you feeling? After moving to another street next to a theater, parking the little cart at the Dancing Society's door, Leon asked the Cat Princess while observing the dancers going in and out and searching for targets with strong souls. Has the restraint continued to lessen? How much of the witch's power has been restored? The restraint has lessened quite a bit more, and the witch's power has been restored by about 30%. After answering Leon's questions, the Cat Princess, who had been running around all day with Leon, sat down on a block of street brick next to the little cart, hammering her numb and sore legs, and then enthusiastically took out a small crystal ball from her bosom. Back when I had the power of a witch, I never had a face-to-face encounter with this famous food god. After I started interacting with him, the ability to peek into the future was blocked by bedtime story, and this was my first chance to peek into his future. Taking advantage of Leon not noticing her actions, the Cat Princess, whose curiosity was as strong as a cat's, immediately hid the little crystal ball in front of her eyes and glanced in Leon's direction. Oh no! Hearing the cry of pain from behind, Leon, who was chatting away with a dancing girl, couldn't help but shiver, quickly let go of the dancing girl, and rushed back. Are you okay? Seeing the Cat Princess bent over in pain, covering her right eye with tears streaming down, Leon couldn't help but wonder. What happened to your eye? I'm fine. Are you really fine? Really, I'm fine, just a little accident when trying to peek into the future. After Leon suspiciously nodded and went back to recruiting, the Cat Princess, who failed at sneaking a peek, released her hand covering her face and sullenly glanced at Leon's back. Future, you are so stingy. I just wanted to take a quick look, and you poked me right in the eye with your finger. SK. Looks like Mother's method is better. It's easy to get noticed when observing the future of a strong one directly, but observing the future of those associated with him, and piecing together his complete future has a much lower chance of getting caught. Having regained part of her ability to peek into the future, the Cat Princess, facing Leon who is full of mysteries, couldn't resist her strong thirst for knowledge and secretly took out the mini crystal ball again, casting a glance at Leon's side. Oh no! ? Upon hearing the Cat Princess's cry of pain from behind, Leon had to come back once again, asking with a face full of confusion. What's wrong again this time? Is it your eye again? Yes. After snorting and answering, the Cat Princess covered her eyes and waved her hand without raising her head, indicating to Leon not to mind her. After Leon frowned and left, she gritted her teeth and took out a head-sized crystal ball, aiming it at Leon's back. Now I just don't believe it. Just as the Cat Princess lifted the gigantic crystal ball to her eyes, she suddenly felt darkness before her eyes as the once cold, transparent crystal ball turned into a non-transparent, purple-skinned large onion and then instantly exploded with a bang. Ah! Caught off guard by the direct hit, the cat princess only felt a sting on her nose bridge, followed by uncontrollable tears streaming down her face. When Leon turned around for the third time at the sound of her voice and saw her rolling on the ground, clutching her eyes, he had to come back once more to ask, "What on earth are you doing? What's with all the startled noises from earlier?" I, blindly guessing that it was done by future Leon again, but unable to justify herself for sneaking a peek first, the cat princess tried to say "I" for a long time, but in the end, had to resign to her bad luck and said, "I deserve it." What kind of problem is this? Unable to understand what she was doing, yet seeing that it only seemed to cause I pain and nothing else dangerous, Leon temporarily skipped the topic and handed over several flyers he just collected. "Handle these. They are from the Dancing Society." "Okay." After blinking, her eyes swollen from the spice, the cat girl which accepted the flyers handed over by Leon and transferred one signature at a time onto the Yarn Ball Society's indenture contract, then suggested, "You have recruited most of the capable ones from the Dancing Society. Next, let's head east." "East? Where to?" "To the Observatory and Crystal Street, to get the 4 Societies of Destiny to accept the merger." Wiping the onion juice off her face with her sleeve, the cat girl, whose eyes were swollen like small peaches, inhaled through her nose and said with determination, "You've already settled with the Society of Mediums, so leave the Society of Fate, Astrology, Divination, and Numerology to me. Leave it to you?" Hearing this, Leon couldn't help but frown and doubtfully said, "Haven't you just recovered 30% of your strength? Can you handle them? Should we wait for the Society of Mediums to prepare first?" "No problem, you're still here. We're sure to win." "Me?" "Yes, you." Taking out a potion from her pocket and rinsing her swollen eyes with it, the cat princess looked at Leon's puzzled face and wrinkled her nose, saying, "Every time we arrive at a society, let's have them all come and see your future. I guarantee it'll impress them thoroughly." "What did you say?" Looking at the woman in a black robe who barged into the observatory, demanding to see him by name, the president of the Astrology Society couldn't help but point to his nose, bewildered, and ask, "You want to compete with me in astrology? And if I lose, I have to join your, whatever Yarn Ball Society?" "Yes." The cat witch, whose face was mostly hidden by a veil, blinked her crystal-clear eyes slightly, and then said seriously, "Moreover, not just you. Any member of the Astrology Society can participate in this wager, and even if only one of them beats me, it's considered your win. Young lady, this isn't just a matter of winning or losing." Looking at the serious cat witch in front of him, the gray-haired president of the society couldn't help but chuckle and say, "Let's not even talk about whether you can surpass me, the current president of the Astrology Society, in astrology. The wager itself is already quite ridiculous. Have you considered that I actually have no need to compete with you in astrology skills? You will. How could there be a reason, unless you... Ha!" Looking at the transparent crystal spinning slightly in the palm of the black-robed woman's hand under the light, the president of the Astrology Society couldn't help but be slightly stunned, then spoke with surprise. "What you have in your hand is the corpse of a dead star." After answering the president's question, the cat witch blinked and added, "Though it's just a very small part, it indeed once came from the starry sky above us. Mr. President, as long as one of your members can beat me, it will be yours." The corpse of a star. Staring at the crystal suspended in the cat witch's hand, the president of the Astrology Society silently took a deep breath, then said with somewhat dry throat, "I am willing to accept your wager in my personal capacity, if you alone won't do." After interrupting the president, the cat witch shook her head and refused. "I won't hide it from you. My target is the entire Astrology Society. You can gather all the astrologers in your society, or even borrow people from the Fate Society next door if necessary. As long as one person can win against me in the wager, this thing is yours. Of course, you must be ready for the worst outcome. If not a single one of the 270 astrologers from your astrology society can beat me, then the astrology society with thousands of years of history will completely become someone's vassal from now on. Although the cat witch didn't finish her sentence, the meaning was obvious. Since she is offering such a precious item as the wager and doesn't mind them seeking external assistance, it proves she might indeed have unwavering confidence in her victory. Frowning, repeatedly evaluating for a moment, glancing at the sparkling transparent crystal in the cat witch's hand, the president of the Astrology Society couldn't help but clench his fist and nod with gritted teeth. "All right, I'll take this wager. Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Looking at the graceful and elegant, obviously young cat witch in front of him, the president of the Astrology Society boldly declared, "If truly all astrologers combined can't surpass you alone, then it proves our Astrology Society is not living up to its name and deserves to be merged. Tell me, how do we compete?" She's confident. Seeing the president of the Astrology Society being convinced, the cat witch couldn't help but smile with satisfaction, then reached into her pocket to tighten the evaporating magic potion inside, and said with a grin, "It's very simple. We'll compete in the first lesson of astrology, finding someone's life star. Come in." Saying this, the cat witch beckoned toward the door, calling in a somewhat disheveled young man, then patted his back and introduced, "He is the vice president of our Yarn Ball Society. I've taught him a bit of astrology and helped him hide his life star. If your Astrology Society can find his life star, then you win." Finding a life star? After hearing the cat witch explain the competition rules, the president of the Astrology Society couldn't help but frown, then asked incredulously, "You're not joking, right? It's that simple?" "It's that simple." Looking at the confident cat witch's face, the president of the Astrology Society began to skeptically examine the man who had been called in. Standing straight, healthy skin, handsome features, clear eyes, quite a pleasing appearance, with a presence that seemed proper. Yet something is amiss? Seeing the man who seemed steady and reliable, yet appeared unsettlingly odd, the president couldn't help but hiss, just as he was about to ask something. He noticed the man's somewhat wrinkled clothes emitting a pungent odor. "What happened to your clothes? What's that smell?" Soaked in onion juice." Hearing the president's inquiry, Leon couldn't help but turn his head, glance toward the cat witch, then add, "Might have gotten some tears on it too." "Tears? Whose tears?" "Whose tears? Probably the tears of all the diviners in the entire Divination Society." Having just left the Divination Society diagonally across, Leon recalled the fortune-tellers holding their crystal balls, observing him, and then got onion juice splattered in their faces by the crystal balls, collectively clutching their eyes in tears while rolling on the ground. Whose tears don't matter. It has nothing to do with his life star. Following the conversation, cutting off the president from probing further, the cat witch urged impatiently, "Go gather people. Call all your astrologers from the Astrology Society over. We have other places to be. Time waits for no one." "All right then." Although feeling the cat witch might be concealing something, the thought of several hundred astrologers working together failing to uncover a hidden life star seemed unlikely. So the president nodded and ordered his disciple to assemble all astrologers in the society. After about 2 hours, all reachable astrologers were gathered back, collectively ascending to the top platform of the observatory tower. Once everyone involved in the wager was ready, Leon, having found time to change into new clothes, was unwillingly pulled by the cat witch through the crowd, standing at the very center of the platform. "Begin." Seeing the vice president of the Yarn Ball Society stand firm, the president nodded, then activated the rune array at the top of the observatory. With his actions, vast, tranquil ripples emerged from the characters etched on the platform ground, veiling the twinkling lanterns of Secret Magic City, dispersing the clouds above the observatory, revealing a splendid, Seeing the space behind the clouds still pitch black, as if a large hole had been burned in the night sky with a cigarette, all the astrologers in the Astrology Society felt their heads buzz collectively, like a group of frogs preparing to catch rainwater, tilting their heads up, mouths agape. Where is the starry sky? Where is that vast starry sky? I knew it, looking at the black, hollow sky above Leon's head, and the stars frantically escaping only to be sucked into the black hole. The cat which, though expressionless on the surface, couldn't help but fiercely pinch her thigh under the black robe. Even though she knew he was a pervert, she didn't expect him to be this perverted, able to forcibly screen even the celestial phenomena. This is truly an absolute nightmare. Staring at the starless sky directly above Leon, the astrologers who had been deceived into coming nearly went dumb right on the spot. Astrology, you at least need stars for us to perform astrology. Without anything like this, no matter how many changes among 500,000 star maps we remember, it's all futile, isn't it? No, this must be fake. A middle-aged astrologer with thick eyebrows and big eyes was the first to snap back from the daze, gnashing his teeth as he looked up at the black hole. No matter how strong the astrology, it couldn't possibly cloak a person's life star to this extent. It must be some kind of illusion. Yes, that must be it. Exactly. This must be fake. Hearing the middle-aged astrologer's words, the astrologers, who were horrified by the starless sky above, though feeling it unlikely, clung to it as a lifeline, beginning to frantically deduce along those lines. And a few astrologers who acted more decisively clenched their teeth and contacted their life stars, calling them to shine upon the black hole above, attempting to light up the vast darkness that had been obscured. However, in the terrified gaze of all the astrologers, the circular black hole above, which had obscured everything, bizarrely opened a fan-shaped gap like a mouth, squirming sideways a bit, and swallowed all the light cast by dozens of life stars. Isn't this like Pac-Man? Watching the black hole above continuously chomping down, beginning to devour all the starlight around, Leon couldn't help but open his eyes in amazement. Meanwhile, the astrologers whose life stars were eaten collectively fell into panic. My life star isn't responding. No. Don't eat. Don't eat. Everyone stop. Don't send any more. Facing the black hole that suddenly started feasting, the panicked astrologers quickly severed their connections with their life stars, and once the continuous supply of sacrificial life stars had ceased, the black Pac-Man above finally stopped feeding and stayed obediently at its original place. So, do you have results yet? Having pinched herself several times in secret to steady her emotions, the cat which withdrew her gaze from the Pac-Man and turned to the president of the Astrology Society, who looked utterly bewildered, smiling and asking, "Come on. Tell me which one his life star is. Specifically, is it a bright star or a dark star? Has it settled into the star palace? If it has, is it the main or angular star in the astrology chart? Are the aspects conjunction, opposition, trine, or sextile?" Trine? Sextile? All I saw was the feeding behavior, gazing at the night sky where the black hole that had feasted, swelling several times over and leisurely dangling above Leon. The president of the Astrology Society was utterly stunned. Despite knowing from the moment this woman proposed the bet that she must be well prepared, he couldn't have imagined that her preparations could be to such an extreme. Not to mention finding a life star for that vice president. Now I can't even locate my own life star. This isn't astrology. Dear President, watching the president of the Astrology Society, who struggled to utter even half a word despite his lips quivering for ages, the cat which couldn't help but smile and remind him, "In about half an hour we'll be exceeding the time we agreed upon, and if by then you haven't provided an answer, your Astrology Society might have to undergo a merger." Facing the crisis of merger placed right before him, the president of the Astrology Society shivered involuntarily, beginning to regret his rash decision, then somewhat humbly said, Can I request some external assistance? Feel free." Upon hearing this, the cat which blinked and then smilingly reminded him, "However, I suggest you only send people to the Fate Society. There's no need to visit the Society of Numerology and the Soothsayer Society." "Why?" "Because we first went to the Society of Numerology, then the Soothsayer Society, and finally came to find you guys." During the foretelling, the Soothsayers Society encountered an accident. Most of them have been carried away by the patrols to the medical center to wash their eyes. As for the people at the Society of Numerology, after making a bet with me, they are currently calculating our vice president's spiritual number and fate number. Given my rudimentary understanding of numerology, those 200 or so numerologists over there at the Society of Numerology, I'd estimate they could figure out our vice president's lucky number for tomorrow if they calculate for another 60 to 70 years. So, do you need more time to invite people from the Fate Society? No, that's unnecessary. Shaking his head to refuse the Cat Witch's generous offer, the president of the Astrology Society, pushed to a desperate situation, gritted his teeth, gathered his disciples, assembled all the master astrologers in the Astrology Society, and had everyone stand in formation around Leon according to the phase of their respective life stars. Fate is hard to predict, but the stars are eternal. Raising his arms towards the black hole above, the veins on his forehead bulging intensely, the president of the Astrology Society shouted out his eccentric and melodramatic prayer with great effort. Eternal stars, answer our call. Penetrate the darkness that obscures everything, and reveal your true appearance. With the president leading, the elite astrologers of the Astrology Society followed suit, raising their arms, chanting melodramatic phrases and gesturing as if embracing the night sky above. Eternal stars, reveal your true appearance. Exen. Oh. Very soon, one after another, radiant life stars timely responded to the astrologer's call, leaping forth from the twisted endless star sea by the black hole, and then, with a resolute and irreversible momentum, charged into the engulfing darkness. When the glow of all life stars had been fully cast, amid the joyous expressions of the astrologers, the previously unresponsive black hole finally began to ripple. With the disruptive efforts of dozens of gleaming life stars, the despair-inducing black hole directly above Leon started to shimmer dimly like a pool of sable ink stirred by the moon's reflection. It's reacting. It finally responded. In the eager anticipation of all the Astrology Society's astrologers, the entrancing point of light slowly moved outward from the very center of the black Pac-Man, eventually trickling out from its mouth, scattering into the dark night sky. Next, the Pac-Man above, having devoured dozens of brilliant life stars, slowly opened something resembling a mouth, and under the eager gazes of hundreds below, let out a thunderous, peculiar note. Burp. Ah! It seems the result is obvious now. The first to recover from the belch of the big black hole, equally shocked, the Cat Witch pinched her thigh fiercely with one hand while trying to maintain a calm smile. I never expected the Astrology Society, with nearly 100 elite astrologers, to be unable to break through the secret technique and find the life star of our vice president. It's a pity that this bet concerning the fate of your society seems to be ours. Wah! Wait a minute. Just as the Cat Witch was about to seize the opportunity of the astrologers' collective collapse of worldview to quickly settle the merger, the exhausted president of the Astrology Society suddenly stood up, panting heavily and shouted, We have not lost yet. ? Did you forget? The content of our bet is not for you to see his life star, but just to find out his life star. Pointing to Leon, who looked innocent, the old president, who seemed to be in his 80s or 90s, supported his knees and declared, I have already discovered the true nature of his life star. His life star is the entire world itself. Under the astonished gazes of the Cat Witch and the evil prince, the old president, who had caught his breath, looked up at the big black hole swaying above Leon, analyzing half joyfully and half proudly. It's now late at night, and the position of the sun is just on the other side of the world. This black thing above us is the shadow cast into the starry sky after the world blocks the sun. Could it actually be possible? After listening to the confident judgment of the president of the Astrology Society and comparing it to what she knew about astrology, the Cat Witch blinked her brilliant eyes, a hint of admiration emerging within them, but she still shook her head nonchalantly. Still not right. If what's above is the reflection of Leon's life star, then why was the light of your life stars directly consumed? This, stumped by her question, the old president of the Astrology Society hesitated before cautiously speculating. There could be many possible reasons, perhaps. Perhaps your vice president was not originally someone from this world. So after our life stars shone on him, the light leaked through his life star. Or he does not currently have his own life star, but his future self is so powerful that he could use the entire world as a life star, shielding himself from all attempts to glimpse his future and past. Or maybe your vice president is actually a true god who has mastered special powers such as devouring and absorption, which is why, overall, it must be some special situation like this. Feeling that these guesses were too far-fetched, the president of the Astrology Society blushed and insisted stammeringly, "I can't provide evidence to prove these conjectures, but my astrology definitely isn't wrong. Whether now or in the future, your vice president's life star is certainly the entire world." Truly impressive. Seeing the president persisting in his judgment, the cat which closed her eyes for a moment in silence, then took out the star fragment used as the bet from her pocket. "What are you doing?" "I lost." After openly admitting her failure, the cat witch, who couldn't win the bet even with cheating, sighed slightly with guilt and then walked towards the old president with the star fragment in both hands. We won." Seeing the slowly rotating brilliant crystal in the black-robed woman's palm, the astrologers, who were almost exhausted from maintaining the secret technique, were first stunned for a moment, then collectively let out cheers of delight, loud enough to be heard several streets away. "We won! We won! As expected of our president. Ah! No need for the merger now. This is a victory for astrology." Amidst the jubilant celebrations, the astrologers couldn't help but feel a rise in affection for the black-robed woman who chose to admit defeat despite the lack of any evidence from their side. Even though she aimed to annex the entire Astrology Society and approached with malice, her actions were incredibly straightforward and fair. She could have completely denied it, forcibly denying the bet, yet she still conceded openly after the president provided an answer, a measure truly impressive and admirable. Under the gaze of the astrologers who had become somewhat closer, the cat which slowly walked in front of the old president of the Astrology Society, solemnly handing over the bet. Then, as the delighted old president received the star fragment, the cat which sighed again, her eyes filled with guilt as she said, "I'm sorry." "Ha!" Under the astonished gazes of the astrologers, the graceful black-robed woman flipped her wrist, pulled out a stick about the thickness of a rolling pin, and gave a direct blow to their old president. "Block the door! Block the door!" Supporting the fainted old man, the cat which started hurling sleeping magic potions into the crowd, shouting at the speechless Leon. "The essence of the Astrology Society is all here. Quickly grab their hands for the prince." "What did you say?" Awoken by her maid from her sleep and meeting the visiting Shaman Society president in the morning, Princess Catherine couldn't help but buzz in shock at his anxious report, asking in disbelief, "Out of the 17 great societies, 7 have been annexed by the Yarn Society?" "Yes, and it's soon to be 8. Noticing something was wrong early in the morning and rushing to report, the Shaman Society president spoke anxiously. Yesterday afternoon, the acting president of the Medium Society seemed to go mad, directly leading the former president's soul to subdue everyone in the society, demanding a collective merge into the Yarn Society. Later, many people in the Diviner Society got onion juice in their eyes and were carried to the infirmary by the guards. At night, the Astrology Society and Fate Society were attacked, all senior members captured, and forced to sign the merger document. Then, in the wee hours today, the Numerology and Curse Societies lost their bet, voluntarily merging into the Yarn Society, and the Dancing Society was captivated by the Yarn Society president's dance, just passing the merger proposal, and now they're heading to Silver Philosopher Society. Medium, Diviner, Astrology, Fate, Numerology, Curse, Dancing, and possibly even Silver Philosopher. As the Shaman Society president reported, Princess Catherine couldn't help but gape wider and wider. "No way. When I returned yesterday, wasn't everything fine? How did 8 out of 17 great societies merge overnight? Did the food god tie them all up and force them to print their hands on the agreement or something? Your Highness, we can't delay any longer. Looking at the expressionless Princess Catherine in front of him, the head of the Shaman Society, who was loyally devoted to the lineage of the great Shaman King, couldn't help but stamp his foot in exasperation, and then urged anxiously, "That damned Lionheart Prince is coming to annex our Mifra. If we let him continue like this, we're done for. We have to act immediately and capture him and that ball of yarn society. Or even, just take him out directly." Take him out? If you go after him, won't I be the one who ultimately dies? Faced with the head of the Shaman Society's urgings, the shocked Princess Catherine couldn't help but twitch her lips, feeling as if she were caught between two muscular men, unable to choose a side. If I don't act against the food god, given his speed and skill in causing trouble, the entire Witch Kingdom could be dragged into the bedtime story within just 2 days, and any attempts to eliminate the food god would be completely thwarted. But the story that's been set cannot be fundamentally altered. If I want to seize him, it would mean disrupting the established storyline, and I would become the one to resist the confines of bedtime story instead of the food god. And what's more fatal is, if to thwart the food god, I unravel the bedtime story, recalling the subterranean Northern Kingdom, where entire families were crushed into pulp under mountains, dead and alive alternately, driven to surrender through torment. Trush couldn't help but shiver. The damn big guy is in the library just a few streets away, less than a kilometer away from me. So once the narration of non-existences, bedtime story pauses, he could be here to devour me alive in less than 30 seconds. Isn't this a dead end? Your Highness. After waiting for a long time without a response, the head of the Shaman Society couldn't help but plead anxiously. Your Highness. Say something, Your Highness. It's not that I don't want to say something, it's just that I truly don't know what to say. Just as I don't know how to free myself from the food god's grasp. Is this going to end badly again? Seeing the Princess Catherine, whose face turned white, then red, then greenish-blue to the point of almost turning black, the head of the Shaman Society gritted his teeth and said, Your Highness, as long as you say a word, I will immediately gather the people of the Shaman Society to take troops and capture him. Capture him? Can't be done. Don't have the ability, you know? Seeing the head of the Shaman Society, who still couldn't see the situation at this point, still intent on dealing with the food god, Trush couldn't help but show a hint of pity in his eyes, and there was a touch of enlightenment in his gaze. What grand ambitions of the Slaughter King Association, what lofty position of vice president, what unfettered enjoyment of the beauty of the mortal world after expelling the Clearance Bureau. All of these are predicated on staying alive first. The food god is not even 18 this year, hasn't been in the Clearing Bureau for a year, yet can crush 3 pillar god level terrestrial seedlings. What's he going to do when he's in his 30s or 40s? Straight up ascending? Based on the situation of 3 generations of directors of the Clearing Bureau, that guy will probably live to 150, at least another 120 years of causing trouble. Even 10 Slaughter King associations wouldn't be enough for him to harm. So what narration of non-existence, what Omnia Cicada, what Crimson Overlord, what Azure Sleep? All garbage. You useless trash truths are not qualified to compare with my disaster avoidance. I've figured it out. In the next 120 or 30 years, it's not about whose truth is stronger, but who the hell can survive the food god's hunt. Forget it. Don't bother with him anymore. In the dumbfounded gaze of the head of the Shaman Society, Princess Catherine seemed to have figured something out, and her entire demeanor suddenly softened, even exuding a faint enlightened aura akin to that of a monk. Let that food, Lionheart Prince, make a mess. It's fine. What? It's fine being like this? Are you freaking crazy? Your Highness. All right, you may leave. Gesturing for the head of the Shaman Society to leave, Princess Catherine touched her trembling earrings and said with a look of calm, I'll go and consult with my mother. You go tend to other important matters first. The most important thing now is, Your Highness, Your Highness. Watching as Princess Catherine walked back to the inner courtyard without looking back, leaving him behind, The nearly furious head of the Shaman Society stomped his foot, then turned and headed toward the outer courtyard. The great Shaman King and Princess Catherine. It seems I can no longer count on them. Only I can stop the Lionheart Prince's ambitions now. Even if there will be repercussions later or even war, I must protect this. What? Why are you here? Stepping into the outer courtyard and seeing two shamans running up to greet him, the head of the Shaman Society frowned and asked, "Didn't I tell you to stay in the society? Ready to take over the city guard at any moment? Why did you come here?" "President." The two shamans looked anxious as they reported. Something happened. After the Lionheart Prince left the Society of Silver Philosophers, he brought those mediums from the Medium Society and blocked the entrance to our Shaman Society. What? How dare he? Hearing this, the head of the Shaman Society was taken aback, then gritted his teeth and asked, "How did you respond? Did you drive them away or directly repel them?" Well, upon hearing the inquiry from their president, the two shamans glanced at each other, then hesitantly replied, "We told everyone not to go out, and then ran out through the tunnel to inform you." Useless. The head of the Shaman Society was furious hearing this. "Didn't I say before, when I went to get the order from His Highness, if that damn Lionheart Prince dared to show up, don't engage in any bets, just drive him away?" President, it's not that we don't want to drive them away, it's just that we really can't. The older of the two shamans explained bitterly. After the mediums from the Medium Society joined him, they rushed to the cemetery outside the city overnight and summoned the spirits of our deceased elders from the realm of the dead using secret techniques. Just as I led people near the front door and opened my mouth, I was immediately scolded back by my father. "Ah! President, it's not just my dad, your father was summoned too, also your grandma, your aunt, your second aunt." "What did you say?" "I mean, President, your elders were summoned back in the fullest." Recalling the scene of ghosts floating all over, the elder shaman said with a difficult-to-sustain expression, "And they might not know you're not inside, trying to force you out of the society, revealing all your embarrassing secrets at the society's entrance. When the two of us escaped, they were already talking about how you wet the bed at 15. Screech. Just as the chief of the Shaman Society, upon hearing that his dark past had been completely exposed, was anxiously rushing back, the familiar, piercing noise echoed once more in the evil prince's ear, 3 blocks away from the Great Witch Court. "Through fair dueling and persuasive force, you have successfully conquered the 9 major societies of the Witch Kingdom, governing half of Ephemeral's bloodline, thereby activating the silver-level hidden badge, Half Shaman's Blood. Half Shaman's Blood. As the last Shaman King revered by the 10 scions of the Great Court, Ephemeral, troubled by the delay in giving birth to her own bloodline, divided her heritage and bloodline, entrusting them to the 18 secret techniques of the Great Court. And whenever a human with part of the 10 scions bloodline masters any secret technique to a certain degree, they automatically inherit Ephemeral, the Shaman King's bloodline. By mastering 9 or more secret techniques, they become the direct descendant of Ephemeral, awakening the Half Shaman's Blood. Badge effect. Gain half the inherent talents of Ephemeral, the last Shaman King, and significantly increase your affinity with time powers. Progression path. Once all 18 secret techniques of the Great Court are mastered to the Great Witch level, or after completely conquering all of Ephemeral's bloodline, this badge will automatically advance to the hidden gold level badge King Blood Great Witch. Hidden trait. No need to wear influenced by the lingering obsession of Ephemeral, the Shaman King. The probability of having offspring after engaging in corresponding activities with a partner will significantly increase. My goodness! And merging societies can even yield a hidden badge? Also, besides the great Shaman King's lineage, there are a total of 17 major societies in the Witch Kingdom. Could they be exactly these 18 Great Court secret techniques? After glancing at the Half Shaman's Blood shimmering with silver light on the panel, Leon, just about to study its effects, suddenly felt a tap on his arm. Leon. After calling out to the evil prince, the cat witch, who had done a lot of dirty work with Leon over these 2 days and was quite familiar with him now, asked with some concern, "The chief of the Shaman Society is very formidable. Are the two shamans you sent capable of taking him down? No need. Sending two people is already enough. The evil prince smiled upon hearing this, then explained. Although in terms of Leon value, the chief of the Shaman Society is stronger than many first-level cleaners, he lacks any specialized protective anomalies, making him not too difficult to handle. I've got everything arranged. By the time he reaches the door to argue with his relatives, those two shamans will ambush from behind, and one hit each will be sufficient to bring him down. Indeed, the cat which nodded at these words, reluctantly accepting Leon's explanation. However, after pacing around the room for a while, she couldn't help but suggest again. Leon, the Shaman Society ranks first among the 17 major societies and controls many key departments. If he escapes, it would be very troublesome. I still think it would be safer if I went. Don't worry. I've got it all planned out. Glancing at the cat witch, whose complexion was slightly pale, with wet hair sticking to her temple, Leon directly refused her request to join the battle. You're still shackled by bedtime story. Your strength is not much greater than an ordinary person, and last night you were dancing with the Dancing Society people from midnight until sunrise. You should rest already. But what if? There won't be an if. But if you're really uneasy, I can go myself. No, I don't want to trouble you. You've already helped me a lot these past 2 days. Realizing she was just being overly worried, the cat witch felt slightly embarrassed looking at the composed Leon. Sorry, now that the situation is improving, I can't help but feel anxious. It's understandable human nature. Nodding understandingly, Leon glanced at the cat witch, her black robe drenched in sweat, and her calf muscles trembling slightly. He then gestured towards the sofa opposite him. Catherine, would you like to sit down and chat? Ah, okay. Though feeling a bit urgent inside, hoping to settle the Shaman Society quickly, the cat witch still obeyed and sat down across from Leon, lifting her gaze to meet his. Catherine, after looking at the half-shaman's blood on his panel, Leon curiously asked, Do you know ephemeral? Upon hearing Leon's question, the cat princess was slightly stunned, then surprisedly asked, I do. She's my ancestor, the last shaman king of the Great Court. Why do you suddenly ask this? Oh, it's just that after contacting the Earth Scions in the Northern Kingdom, I wanted to learn more about the past. Offering a barely plausible reason, Leon sincerely sought knowledge. Catherine, I've only recently become a director at the Cleaning Bureau, and there's much I don't understand about past events. Could you tell me more? Sure. Nodding in agreement with Leon's request, the cat witch promised. Just ask me anything you'd like to know, and I'll tell you everything I know. Thank you very much. Leon smiled at her words and continued asking. During Ephemeral's time, there should have been 18 secret techniques of the Great Court, correct? I'm curious to know if the 17 secret techniques inherited by the 17 major societies of the Witch Kingdom are the same as those 18 secret techniques. How do you even know such things? After hearing Leon's question, the cat witch nodded in amazement and proceeded to explain. That's indeed the case. The 17 major societies of the Witch Kingdom originate from those ancient Great Court secret techniques, and the witch lineage from my mother and me inherits the final 18th secret technique. Just as I thought. Nodding in understanding, aiming to gather more insights that might earn a good badge, Leon persistently asked, Catherine, what are the effects of these 18 secret techniques? Have you learned them all? I've learned a bit of most of them, but I'm not proficient in many. I'm particularly skilled at the secret techniques of fate and advent, while the exact effects are. After organizing her thoughts, the cat witch tried to explain. The secret techniques of the major societies are actually derived from their names. For example, societies like astrology, spiritual number calculation, and dancing are based on celestial divinations, spiritual number predictions, and ritual dancing. Whereas totem, priest, and shaman societies focus on totem cultivation, ritual ceremonies, and communing with nature. Only the societies of the Silver Philosopher and Gnosis are particularly unique, with the former accelerating mental processing speed as a mind secret technique, and the latter providing insight through the revelation secret technique. Although entry is not difficult, truly mastering them has always been rare. Observing astrology, communicating with nature, accelerating thought, viewing the world profoundly. Although these might lack direct combat power, they sound like all good things. After listening to the cat witch's explanation, Leon's eyebrows involuntarily lifted slightly. His interest in these 18 dating secret techniques greatly increased. Are these secret techniques from your witch kingdom allowed to be passed on? Can I learn them? You want to learn the dating secret techniques? Upon hearing this, the cat witch blinked and then hesitantly nodded. There's technically nothing that can't be passed on, but these secret techniques themselves seem to have limitations. It's difficult for people from other countries to master them, except for those from our witch kingdom. It seems not that people from other countries can't learn it, but those without the bloodline of the 10 descendants of dating can't. These dating secret techniques and humans might be two different systems, but I probably don't have a problem. After glancing at the effects of wearing half-witch blood, Leon casually brought out this badge, gaining half of the last Witch King's talents. He then suggested, "Why don't you try teaching me? What if I'm just one of those who can learn it?" This, all right. Though Leon, as someone upright and pure, didn't seem like someone who could learn the dating secret techniques, the cat witch, who owed quite a few favors, did not refuse seeing his insistence. After a moment of pondering, she asked, "Astrology secret techniques and spiritual number calculation require memorizing numerous star maps and number formulations. Totem cultivation and communicating with nature also take a very long time to cultivate a medium. The only one I can teach you right now is the Dance Nuwa secret technique. Do you want to learn it? The Dance Nuwa secret technique. Is it learning to dance?" Recalling when he subdued the dancing society and the cat witch's unique, wild dance moves by the bonfire, Leon hesitated only briefly before nodding his head. "I want to learn it. Can you teach me when you're rested?" "I can do it now. I'm pretty much rested." Hearing this, the cat witch chuckled, stood up from the sofa, folded the tail of her black robe up, and tucked it under the waistband at her back, revealing 2 sections of legs like young lotus roots. Next, she rolled up her sleeves to reveal her arms, pulled out a few small clips from her pocket, folded the turned-up sleeves into a flower pattern, clamping them above her elbows, completely altering the robe for ease of movement. Watch closely. The progress over the past 2 days was very smooth, and with the shadow of death mostly lifted, the cat witch was in a good mood. She lifted the skirt formed by altering her robe and twirled lightly, then smiled and said, "Next, I'll first dance some relatively simple introductory dance steps. Take a good look, and then tell me what you feel." "Feelings, you mean?" "Just the purest feelings." As if knowing Leon would ask like that, the cat witch gently swayed her slender waist and smilingly said, "There's no need to memorize my dance steps. Dance is not something rigid. The feeling in your heart is the only standard. Without the involvement of the heart, no matter how accurate the steps and posture, it's merely ordinary dance and not the true Dance Nuwa secret technique." Wow, is it that abstract? After hearing the cat witch's idealistic teaching, the initially intent on memorizing steps and movements Leon had to shift his gaze from her arms and legs to her overall movements. Noticing the change in his gaze, the cat witch nodded in satisfaction, then gracefully leaned back, unfolded her upper body with a few elegant stretches, and then instantaneously sprouted out. That's right, sprouted. With the talent boost from half-witch blood, in the instant when the cat witch leaned her upper body back, her white arms silently came together and gently unfolded to the slanted upper direction. Leon felt his eyes blur slightly, and the originally elegant black-robed woman completely vanished. In her place was a tender sprout emerging from the post-rain soil, with a few rain droplets clinging to the leaves. Whether it was the pitch-black moist soil, the snow-white sprout breaking through, or the few sparkling rain droplets, they all carried a vitality so exuberant it moved the heart. How was it? With her lithe form slightly bouncing, completely freed from the soil upon shedding rain droplets, the cat witch asked with a smile, "Did you see it clearly? What did you feel?" "Did I see it clearly? I didn't quite realize it before. But now I see it clearly. Upon hearing the cat witch's question, Leon finally snapped out of that vigorous vitality, his gaze returning to the cat witch. He was then incredibly surprised to find that those few raindrops on the sprout were actually the sweat beads by the cat witch's cheeks. The black and moist soil was her black gauze robe dampened by sweat, and the two snow-white sprouts breaking through were her dazzlingly white slender arms. Amazing! With genuine admiration, Leon couldn't help but praise. The moment you started moving, you completely vanished from my sight, as if you turned into a sprout breaking through the earth after the rain. Moreover, when you finished the leaning back and bending motion, and straightened up again, it was like water droplets sliding off the tip of the sprout and the leaf bouncing back after being pressed. The action was remarkably expressive. Oh boy! Although my dance of sprouting is indeed the most basic move, you learned it a bit too fast, didn't you? I watched my mother dance quite a few times before I comprehended sprouting. How can you comprehend it faster than me, the daughter of the Grand Witch King? Watch another. Seeing Leon comprehend the entire sprouting from just 2 or 3 steps, the cat witch fell silent for a moment. She lightly bit her lip with a bit of an unwilling-to-lose spirit and danced around again, breathlessly asking, "This time? What did you see this time? Sunset, evening clouds, and a bonfire fiercely blazing in the wild." Glancing at the faint blush on the cat witch's face after intense movement, her body also tinged within a light pink after stretching, and the healthy blush on her calves, Leon couldn't help but exclaim, "So the changes in the dancer's body are also a part of the entire dance Nuwa secret technique? Amazing!" Though it seemed a bit disjointed, not as harmonious as the previous moves. "No way, you even saw through that?" Unexpectedly, despite choosing a considerably more difficult dance and secretly reducing 2 moves, the cat witch found Leon seeing through it effortlessly, stubbornly unwilling to lose. She took a deep breath, intending to perform an even more challenging dance. But just as her feet spun and arms spread, the constraints from Bedtime Story, that had been greatly lessened, suddenly surged back at full force, not only restricting the cat witch's movements but instantaneously draining her limited strength. Careful! Though feeling the sudden increase in constriction, Leon, affected far less due to his materialism, quickly stepped forward to embrace the cat witch's waist, following her spinning momentum and bringing her into his arms, thus preventing her from collapsing. Meanwhile, as the sweaty cat witch leaned powerlessly against Leon's arm, blushing and breathing gently like a kitten, Miss Clash, detained by the Shaman Society for several days, along with the utterly bewildered Prince Freckles, were promptly delivered to the doorway by the Grand Witch Court's captain of the guard,